This will be the very last time you ever have to wrestle in the dark for sleep. This journey we are about to take will gently yet completely dismantle the heavy defenses woven deep into your nervous system, drawing you down into a sacred, irreversible rest. This contemplative guide has already become an absolute sanctuary for countless souls who have sat paralyzed in the long night, swallowed whole by anxiety. In the journey ahead, you will hear how the sleeping sojourner in the midst of a storm calms their breath, how the desert hermit melts into the starlight, how the unburdened shepherd reclaims a lost tranquility, and how the woman searching for the lost coin finds wholeness the very moment the candle flickers out. Even if you have never tried any form of prayer or meditation, even if your mind right at this moment is screaming like a set of overheated gears running at maximum capacity, refusing to halt, even if every relaxation technique that claimed to work has failed you in the past, it is completely okay. You do not need to make any effort at all. Just allow yourself to be. Just as St. Augustine breathed his heavy sigh into the ancient night, you have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it rests in you. The invisible, crushing weight is about to melt away with your very next breath. Now just allow yourself to get a little more comfortable. Notice the gentle support of the mattress beneath you. Close your eyes. Take a deep, slow breath. And your rest begins right here. The night has grown so incredibly deep now. The room is filled with a thick, heavy dusk, almost the color of dark ink. This dimness was always meant to be a tender covering. But for you, right in this moment, it might feel more like a massive echoing chamber, bouncing back every single roaring thought trapped inside your skull. You are lying here, your physical body stretched out flat upon the bed, yet your soul remains standing rigidly upright. It is sprinting. It is battling. It is desperately trying to arrange and conquer every single task awaiting you tomorrow. Just bring a gentle awareness to your jaw right now. Is it tightly clenched? And your shoulders? Are they still hovering, pulled slightly upward, as if bracing against some invisible crushing weight? Notice your breathing. Is it still shallow and hurried, trapped in the upper chambers of your chest, hesitant to sink down into the deep, quiet spaces of your belly? You are just so incredibly tired. This exhaustion is not the simple muscle ache of carrying physical burdens. It is a profound, bone-deep drought that has drained the very color from your soul. Because in the deepest layers of your subconscious, you have taken on the role of the creator of your own life. You have believed the illusion that if you do not mentally rehearse every single task tonight, tomorrow will spiral into absolute chaos. You have convinced yourself that if you do not grip that imaginary steering wheel with white knuckles, your life will veer completely off course. You are using your intellect, your anxiety, and a relentless nervous tension to keep the gears of your world turning. You are trying with your fragile flesh and blood to carry the rotation of the entire universe on your shoulders. But please, listen to my voice. This is an illusion. It is the tragic sorrow of overstepping your bounds. You do not need to be, and you never could be, the omnipotent controller of all things. Now, it is time to step down from that throne. Let us gently turn the hands of time backward, rewinding through 2,000 bitter winters and scorching summers. We retreat to a dry, biting winter night on the eastern shores of the Mediterranean. It is a tiny town called Bethlehem. Suspended in the night air is the scent of coarse grit, the dry fragrance of olive branches, and the heavy, mingled scent of sweat and profound exhaustion radiating from countless travelers. The inn is ablaze with glaring lights, boiling over with a deafening roar of human voices. That is the noise of the secular world, the registering of power, the exchange of profit, the suffocating crush of every individual fighting desperately for a respectable place to lay their head. It looks and sounds exactly like your daytime brain overflowing with information, turbulent emotions, endless calculations, and survival anxiety. There is no room left. There is absolutely no room left in the inn. And so, we turn away. We walk away from that deafening epicenter. We wander toward the quiet fringes of the little town, stepping toward a forgotten corner where human attention never strays, toward a deep, shadowed cave where the harsh lights cannot reach. The air here is biting, colder than outside, yet it carries the rich, damp scent of raw earth. The most primordial baseline of the world, woven into the air, is the faint, aged fragrance of dried straw alongside the slow, rhythmic, heavy breathing of large beasts. This is a manger, a rough, Splintered feeding trough, half absurdly pieced together from unpolished stones and draw wood. It meets zero standards of respectability. Its edges are jagged, stained with mud. There is no elaborate set design here, no meticulously calculated comfort. Yet, right here in this most deeply shadowed, most lowly, most chaotic place devoid of any human control, the very center of the universe descends. In this deeply atmospheric, low-key lighting, like a scene pulled from a retro roll of film, you see the faintest glimmer of starlight. It barely pierces through the cracks of the heavy cavern, spilling down with agonizing slowness onto that tangled, messy pile of dried hay. Why a manger? Why did that sacred rest, that ultimate, cosmic grace, not choose to descend into the brightly lit inn? Why not a palace draped in velvet? Why choose this place choked with mud and straw? Because the inn was simply too full. Just like the rooms of your own heart, constantly stuffed to the brim with self-imposed demands, with the heavy yoke of perfectionism, with survival anxiety. When your hands are tightly clenched, refusing to relinquish the illusion of control, grace has nowhere to land. The manger symbolizes an absolute surrender, a total relinquishing, a state of being completely unguarded. It is whispering to you that you do not need to sweep your life perfectly clean. You do not need to prune your emotions until they are flawless. You do not need to wait until you have proven your worth before you are allowed to rest. Grace descends quietly, exactly when you are at your most powerless, your most exhausted, when you feel most like a chaotic, messy pile of dry hay. Surrender your obsessive need for order. Allow yourself in this very moment to just be a scattered patch of mud, a worthless pile of straw, because it is precisely upon these ruins that true, enduring peace is born. Now, let us begin the unburdening. Do not use your mind to think about it, just use your physical body to feel it. Bring your awareness, ever so slowly, up to the very crown of your head. Imagine, just for a moment, that resting there is a heavy, crushing crown, woven entirely from the anxieties and responsibilities of your day. Now here, sitting beside this shadowed manger, you no longer need it. Feel the sheer weight of this crown simply peeling away, lifting off your scalp. Your scalp begins to soften, strand by strand, melting away like spring snow. This warm, melting sensation cascades down over your forehead. It smooths out the tight furrows between your brows. Your eyebrows no longer need to brace themselves. The softness flows down into the hollows of your eyes. Your eyeballs feel incredibly heavy, so deeply fatigued. Just allow them to sink backward, sinking deep into the comforting darkness of your skull. Deeper still, your eyelids close like the massive rusted iron gates, sealing shut, locking away the world. You do not want to open them, and you simply cannot. The quiet command to release travels down into your jaw. Allow your lips to part ever so slightly. Let your tongue fall away from the roof of your mouth, resting softly, heavily, at the bottom of your palate. Feel your chin lose all its holding power, yielding entirely to gravity, dropping just a fraction of an inch. In this profound, resonant darkness, every single nerve, every microscopic fiber of muscle in your face, completely surrenders its resistance. You are shedding the rigid, armored mask of the capable adult you wore all day. You are returning to a state of primal, undefended softness. Deep within the silence of this cavern, in a cinematic vision where dust motes dance lazily in the amber glow of starlight, the infant lies in rough swaddling clothes. You gaze upon him. Or perhaps you are him. Just feel the physical reality of a newborn. He has absolutely no power. He cannot turn himself over. He cannot forage for food. He certainly cannot control tomorrow's weather or his own destiny. But is he anxious? Is he gripped by panic? Not at all. He simply keeps his eyes closed, yielding to an incredibly slow, profound rhythm of breath. Inhale. The chest rises just a fraction. Exhale. All the breath returns to stillness. Listen. That is the sound of the massive beasts breathing nearby. Inhale. Exhale. The warm breath, carrying the scent of sweet grass, rhythmically plumes into the freezing air, turning into thick, white mists. The sound is so steady, so incredibly anchored, like the very heartbeat of Mother Earth, the most primal metronome of the universe. You are securely wrapped in coarse linen. The fabric may not be silken, but it binds you closely, giving you a deep sense of boundary, a profound feeling of being absolutely held and protected from beneath. The outside world might still be spinning frantically, Roman soldiers might still be marching their patrols, the merchants in the inn might still be calculating their coins. But none of that has anything to do with you anymore. Here, inside this narrow, shadowed, earth-scented manger, time stretches out into infinity. The shifting of light and shadow becomes hypnotically slow. You do not need to think. You do not need to plan. You do not need to defend yourself. You do not even need to exert effort to breathe. It is as if the omnipresent grace is gently breathing into your lungs for you, completing every single inhalation and exhalation of life on your behalf. This is your truest identity. You are not the creator tasked with keeping the universe in motion. You are a deeply cherished, safely cradled creation. In this long, enveloping night, your only task is to allow yourself to be entirely powerless. Let the false orders and rigid structures of your date temporarily dissolve into this sacred night. Embrace the necessary chaos of living. As you finally unclench your tightly gripped hands, you will discover that you are not plummeting into a dark abyss. You are falling backward into a warm, thick, infinitely forgiving embrace. This world does not run on your insomnia and your anxiety. The power that breathed the cosmos into existence is, right now, in this silent night, watching over your breath, stepping in to carry your heavy yoke. Now let this heavy, yielding wave of relaxation roll down the back of your neck, washing over your shoulders. How many burdens that never belonged to you have your shoulders been carrying? Let them melt away now. Feel your shoulder blades sinking heavily, deeply, into the mattress beneath you. The mattress is just like that manger. It holds you without condition, absorbing every ounce of your weight, all of your exhaustion, all of your beautiful brokennesses. The heavy softness flows down through your upper arms, through your forearms, pooling all the way down into your fingertips. Your hands fall completely open. They are no longer grasping at anything. Your arms become incredibly heavy. So heavy it feels as though they are filled with warm lead. So heavy you could not lift them even a fraction of an inch. Draw your gentle awareness to your chest. Feel your breath right now. Every single inhale is an infusion of grace. Every single exhale is the laying down of a heavy burden. Inhale, grace. Exhale, unburden. Allow this breath to sink low into your belly. Your abdomen becomes soft, warm. With every breath, a gentle, hypnotic wave is generated deep within you. One wave, then another, washing incredibly slowly over your tightly coiled internal spaces, smoothing them out. We are descending even deeper now. Your spine relaxes, vertebra by vertebra, like a heavy, thick rope that has lost all its tension, sprawling lifelessly against the bed. The pelvis softens. The muscle fibers in your thighs disconnect strand by strand, surrendering the very last trace of tightness. The calves melt. The ankles release, all the way down to your toes. From the crown of your head to the tips of your toes, your body has lost all its rigidity. You have become like a pool of still water, gently seeping outward in all directions, melting seamlessly into the endless boundaries of the night. Now, I am going to count backward from 10 down to 1. With every number I whisper, you will feel yourself sinking twice as deep, plummeting endlessly toward the absolute safety, the absolute tranquility of your subconscious ocean floor. 10. The physical boundaries of your body begin to blur. You can no longer tell where the mattress ends and your skin begins. 9. Your thoughts, like heavy silt sinking to the bottom of a quiet lake, slowly settle into the mud. 8. Your breath becomes incredibly faint, infinitely long. 7. Heavier, deeper. 6. The sounds of the outside world grow impossibly distant, as if muffled by thick, warm water. 5. Complete surrender, total relinquishing. 4. Safe, worn, enveloped. 3. Consciousness slowly dissolving. 2. Everything has come to a perfect stillness. 1. Deep sleep, sinking, sacred rest. Deep within this manger, steeped in the scent of earth and dry hay, in this corner tenderly shielded by low-key shadows, you have finally laid down all your armor. There is no past, there is no future, there is only the eternal stillness of right now. You are lying securely in the palm of the Creator's grace, as if suspended in the very womb of the universe. All your labor has ceased. Every heavy yoke has been handed over. In this deep, profound night, you are allowed to sleep. Safely, heavily, drift away. Just when you thought everything would remain suspended in this perfect stillness forever. In the absolute depths of your dreams, at the very edges of your subconscious, you might begin to notice the faint trace of a damp, salt-laced breeze. You begin to hear a slow, heavy, groaning sound of timber swaying against water. It is the muted slap of waves against the hull of a ship. A storm is gathering upon the waters, and you are deep within the belly of a massive vessel. That damp breeze, heavy with the scent of coarse sea salt, pierces through the dry fragrance of the manger's hay, blooming incredibly slowly in the depths of your mind. You hear a dull, highly rhythmic sound, the agonizing creak of thick, waterlogged wooden planks groaning under the crushing pressure of immense forces. Your physical body is no longer lying on a stationary bed. You feel a remarkably slow, yet entirely irresistible rocking. This swaying motion travels up from the base of your spine, rippling through your bones, bringing with it a dizzying sense of weightlessness. You are on a ship. Your subconscious is intimately familiar with this sensation, because in the waking hours of your day, you are the one who is always standing frantically on the deck, staring wide-eyed at the horizon. If even the slightest ripple appears on the surface of your life, if even a single, unexpected gust of wind blows through, your nerves instantly pull taut, stretching to the very breaking point. You are always the first one to charge straight into the storm. You desperately grab the course rigging. Even if the rope stare bloody blisters into your palms, you grip the steering wheel with a death hold. A wheel you cannot truly control anyway, trying to use your fragile, paper-thin willpower to battle the howling gales of destiny. You are terrified of any unexpected deviation from your plans. You fear even a single second of dropping your guard, because coiled in the deepest, darkest corner of your heart is a massive, icy terror. You are utterly convinced that the moment you let go, the moment you dare to close your eyes, this ship of your life will instantly capsize, swallowed whole by the black abyss. This extreme terror of losing control is the exact root that drains every drop of your vitality. It is like an icy, sharp claw gripping your heart, forcing you, on nights when you should be resting in grace, to frantically bail imaginary water out of your mental ship. But right now, listen to my voice. Take a deep breath in, and slowly, let it all out. You do not need to do this anymore. Today we are going to learn an entirely new way to exist. We are going to learn how to safely, completely, allow ourselves to lose control. Close those eyes of yours that are still darting around, guarding against the dark. In your mind's eye, dial down all the lighting. This is a high-contrast scene, like a gritty roll of retro black and white film. This is the dead of night on the Sea of Galilee. This is no gentle lake, it is a massive, bottomless, ink-green abyss. The barometric pressure is so suffocating while low it aches in your chest. The steep gorges surrounding the water act like a giant funnel, violently sucking the freezing air from the highlands down onto the surface. The howling gale, without a single warning, dives down from the valleys like invisible, raging hands, savagely tearing at the sea. The waves are no longer ripples, they have mutated into towering, pitch-black walls of water, crashing down upon the deck with a suffocating, crushing weight. The freezing water shatters into white foam, whipped by the wind into icy scourges that lash against the hull. The deck is pure chaos. You can hear the sharp snap of rigging breaking, the chaotic rumbling of wooden barrels rolling wildly across the wood, the desperate, hoarse screams of the sailors being swallowed by the storm. This scene, how perfectly it mirrors your daytime mind when it spins out of control, drowning in crisis, sirens blaring everywhere, endless emergencies demanding your immediate action. But this time, do not rush out. I instruct your subconscious to stay exactly where you are. Do not grab that rope. Let go of that wheel. Now, draw your awareness entirely down to your feet. In your mind, locate that narrow, shadowed, wooden staircase leading down into the bowels of the ship. We are leaving the deck. We are turning our backs on the storm, and we are walking down. I'm going to count backward. With every number, you take one step down. And with every step downward, your physical weight will double, and the deafening roar of the deck will fade away just a little more. 5. Your foot presses onto the first wooden step. The planks are slick with moisture, exuding the bitter, ancient scent of aged cedar and pine resin. You feel the muscles in your calves instantly release. That frantic, trembling effort to keep your balance on a violently rocking deck completely vanishes. 4. Stepping down further, the light grows significantly dimmer. There's only a single storm lantern hooked to the bulkhead, casting incredibly long, twisted, amber shadows as it weighs. The roaring of the wind and waves outside is buffered by the thick timber of the deck, turning into a muffled, distant boom. 3. Your thighs surrender all their holding power. You feel as though you are no longer walking, but rather yielding to gravity, dropping like a heavy stone into the absolute depths of this vessel. You catch the distinct scent of the ship's belly, dry linen, coarse wool, and a deeply anchoring, earthy fragrance. The biting cold of the storm is locked outside. The air down you is thick, holding a comforting, body temperature warmth. 1. You have reached the very bottom of the hull. Here, inside this heavily shadowed wooden belly, curving upward like the ribs of some ancient leviathan, the light is practically non-existent. Only that faint, flickering oil lamp barely traces the outlines of the stern. You follow that weak amber glow, and there, in the deepest, most shadowed corner of the stern, you witness an impossible sight. There is a man. His head is resting upon a rough, fraying leather cushion, and he is fast asleep. In this terrifying moment, as heaven and earth violently clash, as the storm shrieks and the entire ship threatens to tear itself apart at the seams, he is sleeping. His brow is not furrowed. His muscles hold no tension. Through the flickering, cinematic amber light, you can clearly trace the incredibly slow, profound rise and fall of his chest. It is a staggeringly slow, perfectly stable rhythm. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. The deafening roar of the gale outside, the violent crashing of the waves these formed, the most breathtaking contrast to his flawlessly peaceful breathing. It is a visual undulatory shock to the soul. How can he sleep? Why does he not rise and save the ship? Why does he allow everything to descend into such chaos? Because he is the master who breathed the wind and waves into being. He is asleep not because he has passed out from exhaustion, but because he holds absolute, sovereign control over the laws of the universe. When the Creator rests in the middle of a storm, he is offering you a profound spiritual metaphor. This storm is not fatal. This loss of control is perfectly safe. As long as he is in the boat, even if the vessel is violently pitching, even if the icy water has breached the deck, even if every ounce of your logic is screaming that everything is ruined, you remain absolutely, unconditionally safe. You do not need to be more awake than God. If he allows the storm to rage, if he chooses to rest in this very moment, then what possible reason do you, a mere creation, have to demand control? What reason do you have to lay awake all night, agonizing over an illusion of safety? Now, steps awfully over to him. There, in that deeply shadowed corner, breathing in the scent of aged wool and worn leather, slowly, slowly lie down. Let your entire body perfectly mold against the thick, curving wooden planks of the hull. Feel these wooden boards. They are so incredibly solid, so vast. This is your anchor. When the massive waves slam against the outside of the ship, you will feel a tremendous vibration travel through the wood. Do not fight the vibration. Just allow it to pass right through your body. In the past, you always tried to tighten your muscles to brace against the turbulence of your life. Now, I am asking you to do the exact opposite. When the shuddering comes, let your muscles melt away like water. Yield your back completely to the timber. Your spine, vertebra by vertebra, sinks deeply, heavily into the wood. So heavy, your body becomes heavier than solid lead. Synchronize your breathing with the rhythm of the sleeping one beside you. Feel his grand, fathomless breath, a rhythm as ancient as the laws of the universe itself, wrapping around you like an invisible, war motion current. Inhale, you breathe in total surrender. Exhale, you breathe out the illusion of control. I invite you to lose control. Deep within your subconscious, plant this gentle command: I allow everything to spin out of control. I allow tomorrow's work to be messy. I allow unknown risks to exist. I allow others to be disappointed in me. I allow myself, in this very moment, to be utterly weak and powerless. I am no longer gripping the steering wheel. I let my hands fall open, resting empty at my sides. Notice your palms. They are completely empty, yet they feel lighter than they ever have. Your 10 fingers curl slightly inward, no longer needing to hold on to anything to survive. Afraid. Overheated nerve endings begin to fuse back together, strand by strand in the warm darkness. Your chest falls wide open, no longer bracing, no longer shrinking. Your belly rises and falls softly with that hypnotic breath. All the anxiety, all those hard, stone-like knots lodged deep in your gut, they are slowly dissolving, melting away in this profoundly safe, rhythmic rocking. Listen to the storm outside. In this moment, that terrifying roar loses all its threat. Filtered through the thick wooden hull, it has transformed into a deeply resonant, rhythmic white noise. The boom of the waves hitting the ship. Boom. The groaning of the wooden joints. Creak. These are no longer sirens of danger. They are the most majestic lullaby the universe could ever play for you. This fragile ship, violently pitching in the storm, has become the safest cradle your soul has ever known. In the rocking, you feel an unprecedented sense of being tightly, securely embraced. Your consciousness begins to blur. You feel the physical boundaries of your body melting away. You are blending into the heavy timber, dissolving into the warm shadows, merging perfectly with the sacred breathing beside you. Deeper still, continue to sink toward that absolute silence devoid of logic and frantic thought. Do not wonder when the storm will pass, because as long as you are at the bottom of the boat, as long as the sleeping one is beside you, the existence of the storm simply ceases to matter. Your cerebral cortex is powering down, section by section. Those sparking red alert thoughts are being extinguished, one by one. Hiss, hiss, sinking into the deep-sea blackness. Only the most profound, primal instinct of life continues a slow, steady pulse. Sleep now. Within this seemingly terrifying, yet absolutely secure loss of control, sink into a heavy slumber. All the madness belongs to the outside world. Inside, there is only absolute stillness, absolute peace. I do not know how long it has been. It feels like an entire century, yet perhaps it was only the length of one endlessly long exhalation. Outside, the howling wind seems to have finally exhausted itself. The violent crashing against the hull softens into a gentle, rhythmic lapping. The rocking of the ship becomes smoother, quieter. You feel the bottom of the hull gently brush against the soft, sandy shore, releasing a long, muffled sigh. Everything has finally come to rest. In the depths of this intoxicating slumber, the sharp tang of sea salt begins to fade from your nostrils. It is replaced by an incredibly dry, sun-baked fragrance of warm earth. You can almost smell the faint friction of golden wheat stalks rubbing together in the breeze. It is dusk, and you are standing before a vast, boundless field of amber grain. That intensely dry, sun-drenched scent of earth grows richer, thicker. Your subconscious follows the fragrance, rising incredibly slowly from the damp bottom of the Galilean Sea, transitioning upward until your bare feet finally touch solid, warm ground. The white noise of the ocean recedes behind you, replaced by the dense, sweeping rustle of a dry evening breeze brushing across millions of stalks. It is a wide, generous sound, carrying the lazy, exhaling relief of the earth after a long day of scorching heat. You are standing here now, in your mind's eye. The lighting undergoes a dramatic, cinematic shift. The blinding, demanding glare of the midday sun, the light that forces you to be alert and hyper-efficient, is entirely gone. In its place is a beautifully low-key lighting, a massive, dark amber sun hanging low on the distant horizon. It is a vintage, retro-film twilight, with the contrast dialed incredibly high. The honey-thick light of the setting sun can only faintly trace the golden crowns of the endless wheat field, the roots of the stalks, the soil beneath your feet, and the long shadows stretching behind you are already swallowed by a deep, Prussian blue, a shadow so rich it is almost pitch black. Now, bring your awareness to your right hand. In this subconscious landscape, your right hand is gripping a heavy, rusted iron sickle with a deathly tight hold. Feel your hand. Your knuckles are white from the sheer force. The webbing between your thumb and forefinger aches with a dull, throbbing pain. The muscles in your fore arm are locked as hard as stone. And it is not just your hand, traveling up your arm. Your right shoulder is high up by your ear, and your entire back is strung as tight as a drawn bow. This sickle, this is the posture you have adopted to survive in this world. You are entirely too accustomed to producing unlearning. Carved into the deepest bedrock of your belief system is a cold, merciless law. I must swing this sickle with every ounce of my strength. I must harvest every single stalk of wheat with my own two hands. where I will be left with nothing. All my worth, all my security, must be manufactured by my own sweat. And so you dare not stop. Even on the nights when you are desperately meant to rest, your mind is still out there, violently swinging the invisible sickle in the dark, harvesting anxiety, harvesting the terrifying uncertainties of tomorrow. You believe that if you pause your labor for even a single second, fields of your life will turn to barren wasteland, and the world will abandon you. This obsessive compulsion that I must create everything myself is draining the marrow from your bones, drop by drop. Not only have you mistaken your soul for the Creator, but you have also treated yourself as a tireless, indestructible harvesting machine. But please, look around you through this amber dusk. This is the field of Boaz. In this sacred metaphor, the season of harvesting is already drawing to a close. The strong reapers, the massive, back-breaking labor of the main harvest, they have already passed you by. The power that spoke the universe into being has already completed the heaviest, most vital work. Now take a deep breath in. Smell the dry, roasted fragrance of the mature grain. Slowly, let it out. Listen to me. In this specific twilight, in this field blanketed entirely by grace, you no longer need to be the sweating, striving reaper. Your identity right now is simply that of a sojourner, a gleaner. What does it mean to glean? It means you do not need to plow the earth. You do not need to sow the seeds. You do not need to irrigate the soil. And you certainly do not need to swing a heavy iron sickle. All you need to do is walk softly in the footsteps of divine grace, and gently gather the edges of the harvest, the stalks that were intentionally, lovingly left behind just for you. This is an entirely different philosophy of survival. It is the shift from clenched jaw creating to soft, humble receiving. Now look at that heavy sickle in your hand. I instruct your subconscious to let it go, one finger at a time. Slowly peel your grip away from that freezing iron handle. The thumb releases. The index finger. The middle finger. Soften. The ring finger. The pinky. Completely let go. Thud. A dull, heavy sound. In your imagination, that massive iron sickle drops uselessly onto the soft soil. The very second it leaves your hand, you feel the crushing weight vanish from your right arm. That cramping, burning ache bred from years of holding onto tight begins to unravel, evaporating into the cool evening breeze. Your shoulder finally loses its reason to stay elevated. Let it collapse heavy and dense, yielding to gravity. Drop your shoulders. Maintain no posture of defense. Now we begin to gather. But this requires tense effort. Bring your awareness to your spine. This spinal column that has kept you rigid all day, stiffly maintaining your dignity and your armor, now needs to be gently, lovingly bent. Like the foreign wanderer gathering grain in the dusk, slowly, smoothly bend forward into the deep shadows. Feel your cervical spine bow first. Your head becomes incredibly heavy, no longer scanning the horizon, no longer guarding against threats. Next, your thoracic spine. That invisible breastplate of armor covering your heart shatters and dissolves. Then your lumbar spine. Those tightly strung muscle fibers running down the sides of your lower back soften and lengthen. Bit by bit, you bend deeply toward the earth. This is not defeat, this is a profound, beautiful humility. This is absolute surrender to grace. When you bow down, you are whispering to the universe, I admit my limitations. I am no longer trying to earn everything. I am willing to receive the gift. Your fingers brush against the warm, dry earth. In this extremely low-light vision, wrapped in the Prussian blue shadows, you feel the plump grains of a stalk of wheat. This is the law of the harvest. The corners of the field purposefully left untouched for the wanderer, for the exhausted, for those with no strength left to produce. You did not earn this. It is given to you freely and completely. Use your fingertips to gently rub the rough, full grains. Feel that pure, unconditional kindness from the Creator, the gift of reaping what you did not sow. The moment your fingertips touch the grain, a faint but absolute current of warmth travels up from your fingers, flowing into your palm, and washing through your entire body. That is the feeling of enough. You do not need to harvest another acre. You do not need to prove your capability one more time. You do not need to lose sleep agonizing over tomorrow's bread. This single, tiny stalk of wheat in your hand is the universe's highest validation of your current state. You do not need to become better, you simply need to exist, and you will be fed. Let us pair this with the breath. repeating this gentle, subconscious motion of gathering. Inhale, slowly bend down, feeling the absolute release of your back. Exhale, your fingertips touch the grain, feeling the unearned gift. Inhale, rise back up, pulling the grace to your chest. Exhale, let the satisfaction flow like warm water through every limb and bone. Your movements become slower, turning into a highly ritualistic, slow-motion dance. In the high-contrast retro film aesthetic, your silhouette rises and falls right at the seam where the golden afterglow meets the deep blue night. Every time you bow, you surrender a piece of the day's anxiety to the earth. Every time you rise, you inhale a piece of the night's tranquility. The sky darkens even further. The very last golden rim of the sun sinks below the horizon. The amber light is completely withdrawn. The entire world plunges into an incredibly deep, profound Prussian blue. The evening wind turns cool, carrying the specific, sedative quality of the night, brushing across your forehead, weeping away the very last traces of feverish thought inside your skull. The labor is completely finished. The gathering is done. Now, walk toward the edge of the field, there beneath a massive oak tree with blurred, shadowed edges. Slowly sit down. Let your back rest against the rough, incredibly broad trunk. The texture of this tree, much like the bottom of the boat earlier, offers you an eternal, unmoving sense of support. Rest your hands on your thighs. In your palms you loosely hold the few stalks of grain you gathered. Your breath has become incredibly faint. So faint, you can barely feel the rise and fall of your chest. Your heartbeat is slowing down. It is listening to the exact resonant frequency of the dark earth beneath you. Thump. Thump. Incredibly smooth. Incredibly anchored. There are no more KPIs to meet. No more messages to reply to. No more roles to play. You are just a tired, but deeply fed soul, sitting quietly by a wheat field at dusk. In these heavy blue shadows your physical senses are being ever so slowly powered down. In your ears, there is only the oceanic white noise of the wind sweeping through the wheat. On your skin, there is only the solid trunk and the texture of the grain. Every single muscle, from your scalp to your toes, has softened into a pool of still, quiet water. I am going to count from 5 down to 1. When you hear the number 1, you will hand over the very last shred of your desire to control to the deep night sky. 5. Your legs lose all sensation, deeply rooted into the soil. 4. Your torso melts entirely into the shadow of the trunk. 3. Your arms are too heavy to lift even a millimeter. 2. Your jaw, lips, and eyelids are painted with the heaviest, deepest balm of sleep. 1. You abandon all resistance. You rest completely in this unconditional grace. Submerge, plummet. Here, at the edge of Boaz S, feel the ultimate symbol of redemption, and being securely held you sink into a boundless slumber. This sleep is so thick, so heavy, like a massive quilt of black velvet, sealing away every last one of your senses. You wander through this profound sleep. Time loses all its markers. Floating in the dark for what feels like an eternity, the cool evening breeze seems to slowly stagnate. You feel the air around you turning dry, the temperature rising in a remarkably slow, yet utterly unstoppable climb. A strange, phantom thirst creeps up from the very back of your throat. At the edges of your dream, the deep blue night sky begins to bleach out, and a blinding, searing, white-hot midday sun begins to burn mercilessly overhead. You see an ancient, deep well built of weathered white stone, and somehow in your hands there is now an incredibly heavy earthen water jar, its weight nearly snapping your arms. This is an intensely extreme visual experience. Deep in your subconscious, the deep, calming Prussian blue is replaced by an almost overexposed, blinding, high-contrast, pure white light. There are no soft transitions here, only razor-sharp light and shadow. The 12 o'clock sun hangs like a burning white dwarf star directly above Jacob's well at Sychar. The sunlight beats down with an unreserved aggression onto the cracked, bleached yellow earth, the air shimmering and distorting in the suffocating heat. At an hour when even the most drought-resistant thorns tremble under the sun's wrath, you are out walking in the heat. Bring your awareness to your left shoulder. Digging deeply into your flesh is a thick, coarse hemp rope. Dangling from the other end is a massive, cumbersome, yellowish-brown clay jar filled to the brim with murky well water. This jar is so punishingly heavy, its outer surface polished smooth by years of friction. It is baking hot from the sun, pressing agonizingly against your equally burning hip bone. With every single step you take, the heavy mass of water violently sloshes, slamming that tearing weight directly into your lumbar spine. Your left shoulder is bruised with a deep purple welt, the muscles convulsing and trembling uncontrollably beneath the crushing pressure. You swallow hard. There is not a drop of moisture in your throat. It feels as though coarse gravel is frantically scraping against your mucous membranes. You feel a bone-deep, desperate thirst. Why come to draw water at high noon? Because you are terrified of the crowds. In this sacred metaphor, this ancient well at Zychar represents the world's entire system of evaluation, all your achievements, all your relationships, all your desperate need for external validation. That unbearably heavy clay jar is the vessel you painstakingly crafted to prove to the world that you are worthy. You endlessly beg the outside world to fill it. You try to use money, status, praises of others, the perfect partner, or even just a flawless photo on social media, to plug that bottomless black hole inside your chest. You draw jar after jar, convinced that if you can just fill it to the brim, you will finally attain ultimate satisfaction and security. But the water from that well can never, ever truly quench your thirst. Whoever drinks this water will thirst again. The achievements you won yesterday have already lost their shine today. The praise you just received instantly morphs into the paralyzing fear of losing it. You have been forced into an endless penal servitude. You must march out every day under the blistering sun, carrying the ever-growing, crushing weight of expectations, coming to the edge of the well time and time again, dodging the gazes of others, roasting repeatedly in the fires of proving your own worth. You are just so tired. Your soul is severely dehydrated from this endless, outward begging. Your nervous system is locked in a state of hyper-arousal yet absolute, barren drought, just like this midday desert, burning hot on the surface, while the inside is cracked and shattered into pieces. Now, dragging your leaden steps, you finally reach the edge of the ancient stone well. In the blinding, high-contrast glare, you notice someone sitting by the well. He carries no bucket, no rope. He is simply sitting there in the stillness, looking as if he himself is the only patch of green oasis beneath this merciless sun. He lifts his head, and his gaze pierces right through the blinding glare, piercing straight through every single layer of your disguise and your exhaustion. He looks at your hand, white-knuckled and trembling from gripping the rope of that jar, and he whispers gently, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water, welling up to eternal life." Did you hear that? Will never thirst. That is a declaration powerful enough to shatter every single one of your defenses. You do not need to beg from the outside world anymore. You do not need to bleed yourself dry under this toxic sun just to prove you deserve to exist. Now, look at that hem probe cutting into your flesh. Look at that crushing clay jar that is causing you such agonizing pain. I instruct your subconscious, put it down. You do not need to lower it gently. You do not need to carefully maintain your dignity. Right here, right in this exact moment. Let go of your hands. Quench. In the auditory theater of your mind, a tremendously dull, yet sharply clear explosion rings out. The symbol of the world's judgment, your endless need to prove yourself, your desperate grasping smashes violently against the hard, white stone of the well, instantly shattering into 1,000 pieces. The murky water splashes onto the boiling dust, hissing loudly, evaporating into nothingness in the blink of an eye. The very instant the jar shatters, a miracle occurs. A staggering sense of physical weightlessness, unlike anything you have ever experienced, sweeps through your entire body. Feel your left shoulder. The crushing weight that has oppressed you for countless days and nights simply vanishes. The deeply indented muscle fibers, after a violent rebound, begin to gasp for air. Blood rushes back into your numb left arm. A tingling, warming, and then profoundly relaxing sensation flows down from your neck, cascading all the way to your fingertips. You straighten your spine. Your lower back lets out a long sigh of immense relief. You are no longer a slave bent over by life. You are standing tall. At this moment, the light and shadows shift violently. With the shattering of the jar, the tyrannical sun seems to lose all its power. Directly above your head, Seemingly out of nowhere, an incredibly vast, impossibly deep canopy of shadow begins to spread. It is the crown of an ancient, towering tree, or perhaps the very wings of sacred grace, moving with an unstoppable majesty to block out the blinding glare. You step out of the overexposed, anxiety-inducing white world and step directly into a massive, low-key illuminated shade painted entirely in deep, cooling greens and slight grays. The temperature plunges instantly. The dry, skin-scorching wind dies down completely. In its place is a bone-deep, refreshing coolness, carrying the scent of ancient, damp stone. In this massive, protective shade, slowly sit down. Lean your back against the stone wall of the well. The temperature of the stone is icy. It acts like a giant, physical tranquilizer pressed against your spine, rapidly drawing out all the residual fever and panic trapped inside your body. Close your eyes. Within this safe, sheltered shadow, begin to feel the welling up of living water. This water is not drawn from the well outside. This water is bursting forth from the inside. From the absolute deepest core of your being, the very place where divine grace has set up its tent. At first, it is just the faintest trace of cool relief. Deep down in your belly, in the very center of your gut. Bring your awareness there. Through years of chronic anxiety, your stomach is always clenched, always burning. Now, an incredibly crisp, flawlessly pure, icy spring is slowly bubbling up from that exact spot. It does not require you to pull it or pump it. It flows endlessly, effortlessly upward of its own accord. Inhale. Feel this cooling living water rise up into your chest. It flows over your parched, exhausted heart. Your heart has been beating entirely too fast, working much too hard. As the living water washes over it, the frantic rhythm instantly slows. It washes away the hard, encrusted scabs of fear and anxiety coating the surface. Thump, thump. The heartbeat becomes slow, powerful, and deeply nourished. Exhale. The living water continues to rise. It flows past your collarbones, pulling into your throat. You swallow. This time, there is no sandpaper friction, only sweet, soothing relief. That chronic psychological thirst, that aching desperation to be loved, to be validated, is completely, eternally extinguished by this internal fountain of life. You realize with profound clarity you were already whole. You never need to beg anyone for your worth ever again, because the Creator has already planted the purest spring in the universe right inside of you. The living water flows higher. It washes over your jaw, unclenching the masseter muscles. It streams across your cheeks, carrying away the hot, burning exhaustion around your eyes. Finally, it floods your cranial cavity. All those mental gears in your brain that were spinning at breakneck speed, smoking black from the friction, they are completely submerged in this freezing, crystalline water. Sizzle. That is the sound of your overheated nerve endings instantly cooling down as they touch the icy water. The frantic obsession, the obsessive calculations, the catastrophic modeling of the future. In this moment, they are completely quenched. The inside of your skull transforms into a bottomless, mirror-still alpine lake. No thought can possibly cause a ripple here. There is only absolute coolness. Absolute emptiness. Now, let this living water overflow from your body. It transforms into a cooling sensation of zero gravity, pouring down into your limbs. Your arms, submerged in the water, lose all their mass. They float, drifting softly beside your body. Your legs, submerged in the water. The bones seem to dissolve, the muscles turning into soft strands of seaweed, swaying gently in the cold, clear currents. I will deepen the altitude of this descent. With every number, your internal temperature will drop by 1 degree. Your body will grow even lighter, sinking deeper into that ultimate, refreshing shade and tranquility. 3. The cooling sensation pierces your skin. Entering your bloodstream, your entire body is radiating a profoundly relaxing, cool-toned glow. 2. Your breath becomes as faint as a silken thread. You barely need to breathe at all because the surge of the living water is providing all the life energy you could ever need. 1. All the heavy burdens, all the desperate thirst, all the frantic outward grasping, they are entirely dead. You are now nothing but a weightless empty shell, suspended beautifully in the waters of endless grace. Here, within the massive shade beside Jacob's well, protected by the deeply contrasted shadows, you revel in this ultimate satisfaction of never thirsting again. You can finally stop running, stop demanding. Right here, Suspended in perfect wholeness, you fall into a heavy, deep slumber. The shadows continue to deepen as you sleep. The dark green shade grows heavier, gradually stripping away all color, bleeding into an absolute, pure blackness. You feel the space around you beginning to contract. The vast open-air expanse disappears, replaced by an incredibly comforting, enclosing claustrophobia. The air turns much drier, more anchored. It is the scent of deep layer sand and soil that has not felt the wind for millennia. You think you hear the faintest hiss. In the endless dark, a tiny, fragile, warm yellow candlelight, smelling faintly of beeswax, dances across a rough mud wall, casting the silhouette of a figure wrapped in a coarse monk's habit. Deep inside the cavern ahead of you, that faint, hissing spark seems to slice through the seal of time and space. Deep in your subconscious, the shade of Jacob's well has entirely vanished, and your senses are drawn into an incredibly narrow, enclosed space that radiates a boundless sense of security. There is no wind here, no sunlight, not even the cycle of day and night. The air is intensely still, suspending microscopic dust motes of dry, fine sand that have not stirred for thousands of years. Inside this darkness, wrapped by thick layers of rock, as if held tightly within the womb, a tiny, fragile, warm yellow flame carrying the natural scent of burning beeswax dances against the rough mud wall. By this agonizingly low light, threatening to be swallowed by the dark at any moment, you see the back of a figure draped in a coarse linen habit kneeling deep within the cave. This is the Egyptian wilderness in the 4th century, a hermit's cave deep within the desert of Setus. In the waking world, your senses are tragically overdrawn. Your eyes are forced to stare at screens radiating piercing blue light, forced to process ends of thousands of rapid, meaningless flashing frames every single day. Your ears are constantly plugged with the roar of the city, the grinding noise of machinery, and the exhausting, hidden subtext in complex human interactions. You are terrified of the quiet. You are terrified that the moment you lose these external stimuli, you will be forced to face the deafening emptiness and anxiety inside yourself. And so, like a prisoner addicted to photoelectric stimulation, you constantly feed your senses garbage. Your optic and auditory nerves are like rubber bands, stretched to their absolute maximum limit, covered in microscopic tears, hovering perpetually on the verge of snapping. You believe that seeing everything would give you control. You believe that hearing every whisper would keep you safe from danger. But this catastrophic sensory overload is the exact culprit dragging you down into the abyss of insomnia. Now, look at the desert father before you. Why did he exile himself to this isolated cave in the sands? Because he understands an ancient, spiritual law: the world enters the soul through the gates of the senses. If you wish to find the absolute rest of the Creator, you must learn to actively slam the gates shut. Surrender your desperate grip on sight and sound, and hand them over to the silent wilderness. Close your eyes. Even if they are already closed, I want you to close the eyes of your subconscious even tighter, even deeper. Focus all your attention on your eyeballs and the delicate muscles surrounding your eye sockets. Through chronic anxiety, your eyeballs have become hardened rigid. Even in the dead of night, they are still darting wildly beneath your lids, frantically scanning for phantom threats. Now, feel the profoundly sedating, dry air of this cave. It acts like a pair of warm, calloused hands, gently covering your eyes. I instruct your optic nerves to cease all function. Inhale. Feel your eyeballs. Exhale. Allow them to plummet heavily backward, sinking into the deepest recesses of your skull, plunging into that lightless abyss in the back of your mind. Your eyelids become like two massive slabs of lead. Do not fight this weight. Let every microscopic muscle fiber along the rim of your lids completely sever its tension. You can never open them again, because there is absolutely nothing left for you to look at. The outside world has been permanently severed by dozens of meters of solid rock. Next, shift your focus to your ears. Listen to the silence inside this cave. This is a silence that possesses physical mass. It is not hollow, it has a thick, heavy texture, like dark black velvet. Allow this velvet silence to slowly fill your ear canals. In the past, your eardrums were always pulled taut, waiting for the alarm to sound. Now, let your eardrums soften, sagging like the skin of an old, broken drum. Shut down your auditory cortex. Deep within your mind, find the volume dial responsible for capturing the outside world, and incredibly slowly, turn it to the left, further left, all the way until it stops. Click. A tiny sound and every bit of static is severed. No engines roaring, no notification chimes, no voices judging you. Now you can only hear one sound, the incredibly slow, incredibly deep rhythm of your own breathing, and the soundless comfort the Creator is whispering to your soul in this dead silence. Let us look once more at the back of the hermit. His evening prayers have ended. Unlike you, he does not desperately cling to the last scrap of light before bed. He does not reach out to scroll through one last message. With perfect, terrifying calm, he picks up the rough clay candle stick. In a cinematic high-contrast close-up, you watch as his callous lips draw near the pitiful little flame. He takes a deep breath. In this exact second, time stretches into infinity. You are waiting for the moment of absolute darkness to fall. There is a tiny sliver of primal fear of the unknown in your subconscious, but it is entirely eclipsed by an overwhelming, desperate craving to finally drop your guard. He blows gently. Whoosh! That tiny warm dancing amber light is snuffed out in an instant. The only light source in the universe is gone. A single microscopic wisp of blue smoke, carrying the bitter, burnt scent of beeswax, slowly spirals upward and dissolves into the black. Vision is absolutely confiscated in this moment. You are plunged into a pure, boundless, sacred darkness 10,000 times deeper than merely closing your eyes. Do not be afraid. This darkness has not come to swallow you. It has come to protect you. This thick, impenetrable night is the safest invisibility cloak the Creator has ever woven for you. In the exact moment your sight is taken away, the dignity you forced yourself to maintain all day, that brittle, fake strength you propped up, it all turns to ash, vanishing along with the flame. No one can see you, and you never have to look at anyone again. You are completely invisible to the universe. Following the extinguishing of the candle, let us extinguish the very last flicker of light in your mind. I will count backward from 7 down to 1. With every number, the jumping fragments of thought, the visual echoes of your day, will be violently put out like sparks drowned by a bucket of ice water. 7. The mental image of tomorrow's schedule, hiss, turns to smoke and vanishes into the dark. 6. The residual faces and conversations that triggered your social anxiety, dissolved, melting into the bottomless black. 5. Your harsh internal judgment of your own performance, those anxiety-inducing self-suggestions, completely crushed by the massive weight of the rocks above. 4. Your visual cortex ceases all electrical firing. Your prefrontal lobe enters an absolute state of hibernation. 3. Your body loses its sense of boundaries. You can no longer distinguish your skin from the air in the cave. You are melting. 2. Your breath becomes barely perceptible. You barely even feel like a living creature. You are just a speck of dust resting in this dark wilderness. 1. All light, all sensation, completely dead, sinking deep, plummeting. Your torso, like a heavy stone, sinks deeply into the soft, dry sand at the floor of the cave. The sand wraps around your back, your thighs, your arms. This physical sensation of being completely swallowed by the earth brings the ultimate state of muscular release. Every single bone in your body lets out a long, slow sigh, abandoning all responsibility to hold you upright. Here, inside this Egyptian desert cave, stripped of all senses, you do not need to react to a single thing. No need to see. No need to hear. No need to think. No need to prove. You rest beautifully inside this sacred nothingness. You have handed yourself over entirely to this soundless, lightless grace. Sleep. In this absolute abyss where even dreams cannot reach. Within this impenetrable isolation. Sleep a heavy, dreamless sleep. All the clamor has been absorbed by the desert. Within this long, unadulterated pitch black, you feel as though you have been sleeping for centuries. There is no light, no sound, everything exists in a state of deadened suspension. Yet, right in the heart of this extreme silence, just as the dust of all your forced thoughts has settled, deep within your inner vision, in the most neglected, shadowed corner of your mind's room, a tiny, impossibly faint sliver of silver light, a light, not of this physical world, suddenly flickers. That light, it is like a long-lost silver coin, waiting to be found. That faint, otherworldly silver glimmer flashes across your inner vision. It is microscopic, yet against the dead. Desert-like darkness you just sank into. It feels remarkably piercing. What is your first instinct in the waking daylight whenever you lose something incredibly important? Perhaps a relationship, an opportunity, or the sleep and peace you so desperately deserve at night. Your subconscious instantly trips a deafening alarm. You plunge into a frantic fever called searching. You switch on every blinding spotlight in your mind, tearing the rooms of your soul apart. This compulsive, internal deep cleaning is the exact portrait of your countless sleepless nights. When you lie in bed and realize you cannot sleep, your cerebral cortex launches into a manic, sweeping like anti-sleep. Did I drink too much coffee? Did I not resolve that issue I was thinking about? Let me try to adjust my breathing. Let me flit my pillow. Let me silently chant some relaxing words. You transform into a ruthless inquisitor, violently swinging a broom inside the rooms of your subconscious, trying to sweep the dust called insomnia out the door, desperately trying to unearth the hidden coin called peace. But the harder you try, the more frantic you become, and the dust you kick up completely blocks out the sky. This very heart of yours, the one trying to regain control by doing something, is the exact assassin murdering your peace. In this sacred contemplative vision, grace is never something you search for, and it is certainly not something you can sweep into existence. The more frantically you dig for sleep, the further sleep burrows away. Now, cast your gaze toward a dim, humble dwelling in Palestine 2,000 years ago. It is an incredibly crude mud brick house. There are no windows, only a narrow wooden door. The floor is raw, a paved earth compacted by millions of footsteps. The light is brutally locked outside. In this retro film, high-contrast gloom, a woman lights a tiny oil lamp. The amber, flickering halo can barely illuminate a few inches around her feet. She has lost an incredibly precious silver coin. It is her entire life savings, her very foundation for survival, just like the security you are desperately trying to cling to. In a state of sheer panic, she grabs a crude broom fashioned from thorns and dry grass. Listen, scrape, scrape, scrape. The broom scrapes violently against the hard mud, emitting an agonizing sound. She is tearing through every corner, flipping over the roughing straw mats, knocking over clay pots. Through the narrow beam of the oil lamp, thick with floating motes, you see it clearly. With every frantic movement, years of settled dust are violently whipped up from the floor. The dust boils, crashes, and dances wildly in the shaft of light. The air turns thick, suffocating. That pitifully weak flame of the oil lamp grows dimmer and blurrier within the storm of dirt. She is blinded. In that chaotic fog of dust, let alone the reflective surface of a silver coin, she can barely even see her own two hands. This is the exact state of your brain right now. You are trying to use various techniques, racing thoughts and self-blame to find relaxation, but all you are doing is kicking up a massive storm of mental dust, burying the clarity and rest you so rightfully own. And so, stop. In the name of the one who brings order out of chaos, I instruct the frantic woman inside your subconscious, stop swinging that broom. Cease your internal deep cleaning. Stop your self-interrogation. Stop demanding to know, why am I still awake? In your mind, take a deep, deep breath, and as you exhale, drop that coarse broom onto the floor. Clatter. The broom hits the dirt, letting out a muffled sigh. The exact second the broom leaves her hand, the bulging, strained veins on your arms swollen from forcing everything instantly flatten out. Your shoulders drop with a heavy thud. You give up. You admit that you cannot find it. You admit that all your frantic striving is utterly useless in this dark. This is a monumentally beautiful giving up. Inside this room of grace, you do not need to be a perfect seeker. Now, following my voice, incredibly slowly, sit down on the floor of this dust-choked, shadowed mud room. Do not worry if the floor is clean. Do not worry if there are still unswept shadows in the corners. Just lie down slowly against the wall. Let your body connect solidly, heavily, with the cold, hard-packed earth. Feel the undeniable, grounding support rising from the ground. It accepts all your exhaustion, all your futile efforts, all your crushing frustration. Take those hands of yours stained with mud from all the digging and lay them limply on your knees. Palms facing up, no longer grasping. Your spine curves gently, resting against the rough mud wall. Your head bows lifelessly. Your chin falls toward your sternum, and the muscles in the back of your neck are treated to the most tender, releasing stretch. Now the only thing left to do is to wait. Not an anxious waiting for a result, but a purposeless. You're existing in this exact moment. Gather all your awareness and focus it entirely on that amber shaft of light from the oil lamp. Focus on the dust motes dancing frantically within it. You do not need to swat them away, you just need to watch them in silence. As your physical movements cease, the turbulent air currents in the room begin to calm. The dust that was boiling so violently, having lost the external for sweeping it into a frenzy, begins to obey the most ancient law of the cosmos, gravity. Inhale. You watch the swirling storm of dirt begin to slow down. Exhale. The largest, heaviest grains of sand are the first to fall back to the floor. They drop soundlessly. Just like the most massive, crushing anxieties in your mind, the looming work deadlines, the crushing financial pressures. Having lost the energy of your focus, they are sedimenting, plummeting downward. Inhale. The air grows just a fraction clearer. Exhale. The medium-sized motes of dust begin to spiral, swaying as they slowly sink. They land on your shoes, on the discarded broom in the corners. These are the trivial social interactions, the unfinished conversations of the day, the petty fears of winning and losing. Layer by layer, they are stripped away from your conscious mind, sinking into the deep ocean of your subconscious. You must cooperate with this sinking. With every single exhalation, feel your own body sinking down 1 millimeter alongside the dust. Your eyelids grow even heavier, as if a thick layer of soothing dust has settled upon them. The muscles in your cheeks go slack. Your chest no longer aggressively expands to pull in oxygen, it maintains only the tiniest dearth or flutter of life. The dust is still falling. Slower now. Lighter. In your inner vision, the beam of the oil lamp grows sharper, more transparent. Now, only the most microscopic, almost invisible motes are left, drifting in an agonizingly slow Brownian motion through the light. They sparkle faintly with a golden hue, like a quiet snowfall in a dream. 5. Your breathing rate has hit its absolute baseline. 4. Your heartbeat is as steady and slow as the long, sweeping pendulum of an ancient grandfather clock. 3. The very last layer of fine dust settles into the earth. 2. The air in the room becomes absolutely pure, flawlessly transparent. 1. A death-like perfect stillness. Right in this ultimate stillness, where the dust is completely settled and the mind has entirely halted, the miracle reveals itself, without requiring a single ounce of your effort. There, at the very edge of that unobstructed, crystal-clear amber halo, wedged in the most inconspicuous crack in the mud floor, a tiny, icy, silver reflection quietly pierces the darkness. That is the lost silver coin. That is the peace, the wholeness, the sacred rest you have been so desperately hunting for. Look, it never required you to frantically search for it. It was always right there. It was only obscured by the blinding dust storm kicked up by your own anxious striving. When you cease all you're doing, when you allow yourself to be a powerless, seated observer, when you let the dust of your mind naturally settle to the floor, it will use its own light to announce its presence. Grace reveals itself. Now, do not reach out to pick it up. Do not move. Just sit exactly where you are, and let that tiny sliver of silver light travel through your optic nerves, shining directly into the deepest core of your soul. This is a cool tone light. It is incredibly stable, flawlessly pure, carrying an undeniable sense of eternity. Feel this silver light pouring into the center of your forehead like a stream of clear spring water. It floods your prefrontal cortex, and wherever it touches, all the wrinkled folds are smoothed out, all the stray thoughts are instantly frozen in peace. It flows down your spinal cord like a glowing silver thread, anchoring your entire body. This light completely obliterates the very last trace of cramping tension caused by your unfulfilled desires. You finally understand wholeness does not need to be proven. Peace does not need to be hunted. You already possess it. You yourself are resting inside this perfect wholeness. Breathe this silver tranquility deep into your lungs. Inhale. The silver light fills the entire cavern of your chest. Exhale. Your body becomes incredibly light, as if melting directly into the halo. Every bone and limb completely loses its mass. Your hands, your feet, your torso, they have all merged seamlessly with this ancient mudroom, with the subtle dust. Nothing can disturb you anymore. No broom can ever again whip up the dust of your soul. You are safe. You have found it. Or rather, you have been found. In this moment of absolute stillness where the dust has settled, inside the sacred space woven from amber lamplight and silver reflection, you are finally allowed to fall into a heavy sleep. Lock your willpower, lock your need for control, along with this recovered coin, into the deepest treasure chest of your subconscious. Close your eyes. Plummet endlessly into that pure abyss. Free of ripples, free of dust, falling. In this deep earth-like slumber, you feel as though you have transformed into a mass of rock embedded in the ground. Your hearing has been completely sealed off by thick layers of dirt. Yet, in this absolute isolation, after an unknown expanse of time, a bizarre, incredibly faint vibration begins to travel up from the very base of your spine. At first, it feels like a distant, low-frequency rumble, as if the tectonic plates deep beneath the earth are fracturing. Then, at the edge of your dream, the sharp shriek of howling wind tearing across jagged rock slices through. You realize you are standing deep inside a massive, pitch-black cavern perched high on a mountain. Outside the cave's mouth, an apocalyptic, universe-shattering storm is raging, and you are waiting for an impossibly small voice. That faint vibration creeps up the gaps in your bones with agonizing slowness. Initially just a muffled resonance, like the low growl of a massive beast far away, it is infinitely magnified in your subconscious. In your inner vision, the peaceful, dust-settled mud house crumbles and melts away. You find yourself standing in the belly of an impossibly huge, darkly shadowed natural cavern. This is Mount Horeb, the hidden cave on the mountain of God. The walls are black basalt, icy, impenetrable, ancient, carrying the rough, scarred texture of cooling lava from the dawn of creation. In this retro film, high-contrast framing, the interior of the cave is a bottomless, absolute black, while the mouth of the cave frames a doomsday storm violent enough to tear the sky to shreds. Listen to that sound. Your cerebral cortex is far too familiar with it. In the waking daylight, your world is entirely constructed from these deafening roars. It is the sound of the world rushing you, criticizing you. It is the explosive bombardment of social media, and above all, it is the howling of that ruthless internal critic, tearing you down day after day. You are constantly trapped in the hurricane of catastrophizing. The moment life veers slightly off track, your brain sounds the highest level air raid siren. You believe that truth must always be deafening. You believe that the solution to a crisis must always be accompanied by a massive, earth-shattering bang. You even believe that if you are ever to find inner peace, the Creator must surely use a massive emotional earthquake, or a consuming fire, to violently burn your old life to the ground and forcibly drag you to safety. And so, you live in a constant, highly strung state of simultaneous defense and anticipation. You wait for the lightning bolt that will split your life's deadlock open, tensing every nerve against the wind, desperately straining to hear the roar of destiny. But this waiting has bled you dry. You are exactly like the prophet Elijah, fleeing to Mount Horeb. He had just survived the most massive, glorious victory of his life, only to instantly crash into the deepest, most soul-crushing depression and burnout. He was so tired he sat under a broom tree and prayed to die, because his calling was too heavy, and the noise of the world was simply too loud. Eventually, dragging a completely hollowed-out shell of a body, he hid himself deep inside this black cave. Right now, you are that exhausted soul hiding in the dark. Do not try to walk out of the cave. Press your back fiercely against the icy, unyielding black basalt wall. Feel this rock that hasn't shifted in millions of years. It is your bunker, the absolute fortress built for you by grace. Now, open the eyes of your subconscious and look toward the mouth of the cave. A cosmic-level gale strikes without warning. In the extreme contrast, the wind takes on a physical form. Streaks of pale gray are slashing like millions of giant razor-sharp blades violently carving into the mountain. R-O-A-R. R-O-A-R. The sound is so massive it creates a suffocating vacuum in your chest. The storm rips the peaks apart, massive boulders collide in manger, shattering into a blinding fog of stone dust. You can even hear the sharp crackle of flying gravel whipping against the cave walls. Your body instinctively wants to curl into a ball, wants to scream. But right now, the sacred law that guides you into rest whispers slowly in your ear, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind, tore the mountains and broke in pieces the rocks. But the Lord was not in the wind. Did you hear that? The roaring wind is not the answer. That is merely the physical manifestation of your mind's frantic anxiety. Do not fight the wind, and stop trying to find divine revelation within the storm. Press your back deeper into the stone wall. Exhale. Watch the gale rage outside and tell yourself, I'm not in that storm. I am safe. The wind barely passes when a far more terrifying vibration strikes. An earthquake. The earth begins to emit the agonizing shriek of deep tectonic plates fracturing. The bedrock beneath your feet shakes violently. The low-frequency infracentric waves penetrate your muscles, vibrating straight into your bone marrow. Small fragments of rock plummet from the ceiling. The world outside seems to be collapsing. Every ounce of order is disintegrating in the violent shaking. This is exactly like the sudden, catastrophic changes in your life, those moments of pure panic, where you feel the sky is falling. But the sacred voice declares again, after the wind and earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake. Even if your world is experiencing a massive earthquake, the source of all peace is not found in the frantic shaking. You do not need to tremble along with the outside world. Let your muscles do the exact opposite of what the shaking demands. Do not clench. I instruct your legs to completely let go. Let your pelvis, your knees, your ankles turn to jelly, collapsing lifelessly against the vibrating rock. Let the world shake. Your inner landscape remains a pool of dead water, without a single ripple. The earthquake subsides, and instantly, a blinding, blood-red glare explodes at the cave entrance. Fire. A suffocating wall of flames, bringing a flesh-melting heat and a violent crack. Thud. Of burning everything to ash, engulfs the opening. The oxygen is instantly sucked from the air, and a blistering heatwave crashes into your face, singeing the hair on your forehead. That is the fire of your internal rage, your bitterness. The burning question of why is the world treating me like this? But this fire is equally futile. After the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire. Not in the wind. Not in the earthquake. Not in the fire. Those massive, deafening, destructive forces are never the ultimate answer. The blaring alarms in your head, the self-condemnation that keeps you awake, they are all phantom physical phenomena. They cannot hurt you, and they certainly cannot save you. Just as the blood-red flames slowly die out, turning into sharp wisps of blue smoke, the miracle arrives in this high contrast scene in the most counter-tuitioning way possible. The gale instantly dies, wind speed drops to absolute zero. The shaking of the earth stops abruptly. Everything returns to dead silence. The very last ember of the fire is swallowed whole by the dark. The inside and outside of the cave plunge into an incredibly deep, freezing vacuum-like, ultimate silence. This silence carries a massive physical weight. Without a single stray noise, your eardrums actually hum with an ethereal ringing. And right within this ultimate pin-drop silence, there comes an impossibly small sound. A sound so tiny, it barely qualifies as a physical acoustic wave. In the original text, it is called a still small voice. But in the ancient Hebrew, it translates to a crushed, silent whisper, or a thin, gentle murmuring. It does not roar from outside the cave. It does not thunder from the clouds. It seems to seep directly out of the absolute silence itself. It seems to flow straight out of the tiny gaps between your own faint breaths. This voice has no words, no melody. It is purely an energetic frequency, vibrating with infinite tenderness and comfort. It simply says, I am here. All is well. You may rest now. To hear this voice, you must cease every single internal movement. You cannot hold onto a single drop of impatience. You must shrink yourself down, smaller and smaller. Now, imagine you are wearing a massive, heavy cloak woven from coarse camel hair. It is the mantle of Elijah. When Elijah heard that thin, gentle whisper, he didn't jump for joy. He didn't run outside. He made an incredibly introverted, deeply reverent motion. He pulled that heavy cloak entirely over his face. In your subconscious, do this motion with him. Lift those impossibly heavy arms of yours. Grab hold of the thick, heavy mantle, feeling the rough texture and smelling the dry wool. Incredibly slowly, pull it over your head. Then, let it drop heavily, completely covering your entire head, your face, and your ears. Swoosh! This heavy cloak completely severs the very last string connecting you to the outside world. Your entire universe shrinks down to the inside of this garment. It is an incredibly cramped, intensely warm, fiercely private space. You can even smell the dry scent of the wool fibers. You can feel the coarse fabric brushing against the tip of your nose and your cheeks. In this moment, your senses have retreated inward to the absolute extreme. You are no longer listening to the world, you can only hear yourself. You hear the sound of your own breathing. Magnified inside this tiny tent. Inhale. Exhale. What a faint, beautifully slow rhythm. And there, right in the microscopic gap of your breath, right in that tiny, suspended pause between inhaling and exhaling, you finally truly hear that thin, gentle whisper. It acts like a microscopic thread of ice-cold spring water, injected directly into your brainstem. It bypasses your auditory nerves completely, echoing directly in the deepest caverns of your soul. It irons out every single crease on your cerebral cortex. It snuffs out every unnecessary electrical spark jumping between your synapses with the most undeniable tenderness. It completely dismantles your final line of defense. You no longer need to scream to survive, the voice whispers. You no longer need to use anxiety to battle the storms of this world. The greatest power in the universe is not in the hurricane. It is in your absolute rest. Right here, right now. Feel this thin, gentle whisper transform into a physical numbness, slowly sinking down from the very crown of your head. Your scalp tingles, then goes entirely slack. Your eyes, hidden beneath the cloak, do not even have the strength to twitch. Your lips part slightly, your tongue turning incredibly soft, resting against your lower jaw. The numbness flows down your neck, pooling into your collarbones, sinking into your breastbone. Deep within your chest, the rhythm of your heart is forcefully taken over by that tiny voice. It slows down dramatically. Thump, thump. The silence between each beat is stretched into infinity. And inside each of those endlessly long gaps, you feel yourself plummeting thousands of feet deeper into the subconscious. I am going to initiate the final 3-tier descent. Now, shrink your consciousness down into a tiny, microscopic point of light. Shrink it down. From occupying your whole body, shrink it until it is only the size of your heart. Shrink it again. Shrink it until it is the size of a single speck of dust. You have no volume left. You have no weight. You are nothing but the thin, gentle whisper itself. 3. The sensation of heaviness vanishes, replaced by an ultimate, ethereal emptiness. Your body feels as though it has dissolved into a wisp of invisible air inside the cave too. No stray thought can possibly survive here. The rooms of your mind are packed so densely with that unspeakable peace, not even a draft can get through. 1. Surrender. Hand over the very last sliver of your waking consciousness. Place your soul, completely and utterly, into the cradle of this tiny voice. Inside the shadowed cave of Horb, shielded by the heavy mantle, you have finally bypassed all the roaring and found the absolute mute, but unhidden at the core of the world. You do not need to fight the storm anymore, because you have become the eye of the hurricane. It is always perfectly calm there, inside this absolute safe zone, wrapped in grace, lulled by the Creator's lullaby that is softer than a breath. Sleep. Sink into a heavy, black night devoid of dreams, devoid of time, existing only for pure, cellular repair. Sleep. Rest. The darkness is as thick as unmelting ink. Inside this deep sleep beneath the mantle, you feel as though you have shed your physical flesh entirely, existing simply as a point of consciousness floating in a silent universe. Everything is suspended. Yet, within this boundless stasis, from a distance impossibly far away, you hear a very faint, yet remarkably heavy thud of wood against wood. Thud. Thud. That sound is not knocking on a physical door, it is knocking on the heaviest, most violently barricaded door of defense at the very bottom of your heart. In the deepest, darkest hour of midnight, a sojourner is standing outside the gates of your subconscious. Thud. Thud. The sound is incredibly muffled, agonizingly slow. It does not travel through the air, it travels through the deep layer soil of your subconscious, resonating through every bone in your body straight to your heart. In your inner vision, the rough cloak covering your face dissolves. You find yourself standing inside an utterly sealed, deeply shadowed room, resembling a medieval fortress. There are no windows. Before you stands a massive, impossibly thick oak door. It is studded with black iron rivets, and a thick, freezing, rusted iron crossbar is violently wedged across the two panels, locking it shut. And you are pressing your back with all your might against this door. Draw your focus to your back, your shoulders, and the back of your neck right now. Feel it during the waking day, and even through countless sleepless nights. Aren't your muscles locked exactly like this? Locked in a rigid, highly defensive posture, always bracing the door? You are a desperately responsible, yet utterly terrified watchman. You have locked all the uncertainties of life, all the risks, all the judgments that could hurt you, outside. You believe that as long as you deadbolt this door of your heart, as long as you do not drop your guard for a single second, you will be safe. And so you do not dare to sleep. You are terrified that the second you close your eyes, the second you step away from the door, the darkness outside will smash its way and unswallow you whole. This chronic, lifelong defense has bled your life first dry. Your shoulder blades are screaming in agony from the exertion. Your cervical spine is so stiff it feels like it has transformed into that rusted iron bar itself. Your chest is constantly constricted. You do not even dare to breathe too deeply, terrified that the slightest noise will attract the monsters outside. But listen to my voice. The law of the Creator, the ultimate divine grace, is revealing a profoundly tender truth to you in this exact moment. The Psalms declare, "He who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep." If the power that upholds the cosmos is eternally awake, eternally standing watch over you, why do you torture yourself into being a sleepless watchman, trying to block the floodwaters of destiny with your own fragile flesh and blood? What a heartbreaking illusion. Thud, thud, the knock sounds again. This time, it does not feel terrifying. Through the thick oak, you feel an incredibly stable frequency, radiating boundless compassion and love. That is not a debt collector at the door. It is not a judge coming to condemn you, nor the disasters you so deeply fear. That is the caretaker coming to relieve you of your shift. It is the tireless, sacred power arriving at your door at the stroke of midnight. He stands outside, and in a deeply resonant, incredibly soft voice, he whispers, "Child, your watch is over. Give it to me. You can go to sleep now. Now I am going to ask you to do the one thing you have always feared the most, yet crave more desperately than anything else. Lay down your arms. We are going to open this door. In your subconscious, follow my instructions, moving incredibly, incredibly slowly. Inhale. Feel your back press tightly against the wood. Exhale. Let your spine, inch by inch, peel away from that freezing board. Your muscles cry out with a dull ache that is the sudden release of chronic rigidity. Do not be afraid. Allow this ache to spread, because right behind the ache is ultimate, absolute release. Turn around and face the massive door. In the retro film, high contrast gloom, stare at that heavy, freezing black iron bar. Reach out your hands and grab it. This crossbar. This is your desperate need for control. This is your obsession that I must protect myself. It is far too heavy, scarred with rust and the scratches of time. Now, take a deep breath, and on a long, total exhalation, slowly slide the bar to the right. Scree, ECH. The rusted iron grinds against the coarse iron brackets, letting out a heavy, piercing yet unbelievably liberating groan. You feel the muscles in your arms trembling. You are, inch by inch, surrendering your absolute control over your life. Pull it one more inch. Your shoulders, following the sliding of the bar, drop heavily. Those hard, defensive knots of tissue at the base of your neck begin to melt like ice. Pull it all the way out. Clang. A massive crash. The heavy iron bar drops from the slots, falling heavily to the side. The exact second the bar drops, the massive boulder that has been crushing your chest, suffocating your breath, instantly shatters into dust. You can finally take massive, unreserved gulps of air. Inhale. Let the oxygen plunge deep into your belly, filling the internal organs that had shriveled from fear. Exhale. Spit every ounce of vigilance, every ounce of armor, completely out of your body. The door is stripped of all its restraints. Under its own massive weight, following the tilt of the floor, it silently, incredibly slowly swings inward, opening a narrow crack. There is no hurricane. There are no monsters. Slipping through the crack is an incredibly profound, tranquil, cool toned starlight, and a rush of the freshest night breeze, carrying the scent of dew and fig trees. That breeze brushes against your cheek, tenderly ironing out your furrowed brow. The muscles around your eyes, exhausted and stinging from staring into the dark for so long, utterly relax in the cool wind. The caretaker does not force his way in. He simply stands quietly in the shadows outside. You cannot make out his face, but you feel an unshakable, mountain-like sense of security radiating from him. Reach down to your waist. Hanging there is a heavy, freezing ring of cast iron keys. This is the ultimate authority over your life that you violently forced upon yourself. You are always so terrified to hand the keys to anyone else, you always grip them in a death hold, even as they bruise your hips as you walk. Unclip this ring of keys. Listen. Clink, clink. The crisp sound of colliding iron echoes in the dim room. Holding these heavy keys in both hands, your arms sag slightly from the lack of support. Walk to the crack in the door. Hand this entire ring of keys along with every single worry about tomorrow, every meticulous plan for your future, every agonizing anxiety about your safety. Hand them all over. From the other side of the door, a pair of broad, warm hands reaches in. He steadily takes the keys. The split second the metal leaves your palm, a miraculous physical sensation of zero gravity floods your entire body. Your hands are completely empty. Feel those 10 fingers right now. They no longer need to clench into fists. They no longer need to grip weapons of defense, like the hands of a newborn. They curl softly inward, dropping naturally to your sides. The hands that took the keys gently, but with absolute finality, pull the heavy door shut from the outside. Click. The sound of the deadbolt sliding into place rings with crystal clarity in the quiet night. But this time, the door was not frantically locked from the inside by you. It was locked from the outside by the caretaker, to protect you. You are on the inside, he is on the outside. He has taken your place as the watchman of your life. He whispers to you, sleep in peace. I am here. Nothing can harm you. Hand the worries of tomorrow over to me. What an ultimate surrender. You are no longer an orphan forced to face the night alone. You are a child protected by absolute power in the deepest heart of the fortress. All the defensive outposts have been handed over. You can walk away from the door. In your subconscious, turn around and walk toward the deepest, darkest, softest bed in the back of the room. With every step you take, a layer of gravity peels off your body. I will count backward from 10 to 1. With my countdown, your body will enter an ultimate, disarmed state of hibernation. 10. Your legs become as heavy as lead. You don't even want to take another step. 9. Your pelvis and lower back relax entirely, as if losing all skeletal support, desperate to sink deeply into the soft mattress. 8. You reach the edge of the bed. Do not bother with posture. Let your body crash heavily onto the mattress like a pool of water. 7. The second your back touches the sheets, every muscle fiber cheers, snapping its connection to tension, strand by strand. 6. Your breath is almost imperceptible. It is no longer breathing to stay vigilant. It is merely the faintest primal instinct of life. 5. Safe. You are entirely cocooned in a boundless sense of security. The Creator is keeping watch outside. Your consciousness blurs. The shadows that once terrified you melt and dissolve in the deep sea of your subconscious. 3. Your eyelids are sealed shut with the heaviest glue. 2. Hand over the very last shred of your need for control. 1. Deep sleep. Bottomless descent. Inside this absolutely perfect loop of safety. Inside this night that no longer requires your management. All heavy burdens are laid down. All defenses have collapsed. Sleep. Hand yourself entirely to him. In this rest devoid of static, devoid of fear, fall into a heavy deep slumber. The dark, like the most premium velvet, wraps around you layer by layer. Inside this weightless space, you slide downward with zero resistance. After an immeasurable time, the borders of the room seem to vanish into the deep dreamscape. The texture of the air undergoes a remarkably subtle shift. The stale, enclosed scent of the room is gone, replaced by an incredibly cold, damp night wind, pungent with the bitter, green scent of crushed plant sap. In the profound quiet of your subconscious, you hear a faint rustling, the sound of wind sweeping through thousands of silver-gray leaves. At the very edge of your inner vision, a pale, bone-white, freezing full moon manages to pierce through the heavy clouds, throwing twisted, jagged shadows across an ancient garden scattered with rocks. And there, Beneath a massive, ancient olive tree with a trunk like knotted, tortured muscle, a shadow seems to be kneeling on the freezing earth, staring at an impossibly bitter cup. The rustling of the silver-gray leaves is infinitely magnified in your ears. You slide out from the warm enclosed fortress, straight into this freezing, hyper-contrasted outdoor space. This is the Garden of Gethsemane. In ancient Greek, the name means the olive press. In this cold-toned, retro black-and-white aesthetic, a pale, razor-sharp full moon hangs at its zenith. The moonlight pours down like liquid silver ice through the twisted, agonizing branches of the olive trees, smashing sharp, violent black-and-white patterns onto the freezing soil. Draw your focus entirely to your own physical body. You feel yourself kneeling on this damp, freezing earth, smelling the raw, bloody scent of plant roots. Resting in the deep shadows right in front of you is an unbelievably bitter, impossibly heavy cup. This cup, this is your will. It is the very voice that screams frantically from the bottom of your heart day after day. Things must go my way. You are constantly fighting. You fight against aging. You fight against failure. You fight against people not meeting your expectations. You fight against life slipping from your grasp. You use every ounce of your strength to play tug-of-war with the laws of the universe. You try to use your thin, fragile willpower to forcibly alter realities that cannot be changed. This death grip on my own will is the exact culprit dragging you into the present, brutally crushing you. It has squeezed out your desperate sweat and on countless sleepless nights. It has pressed the very drops of blood from your soul. You are in so much agony, because you have realized that no matter how hard you fight, no matter how badly your body shakes with anxiety, the bitter cup remains right there, and the floodwaters of destiny refuse to flow according to your script. Now, by the light of this freezing, bone-chilling moon, look at the shadow under the ancient olive tree. That is the Creator clothed in flesh, experiencing the most extreme terror and struggle of human existence. He is collapsed on the ground, sweat falling like great drops of blood onto the hardened earth. He too is facing a cup of ultimate agony, and his physical body is instinctively recoiling. But then, after the ultimate tearing of the soul, in the absolute depths of the long night, he lets out the most magnificent sigh in the universe. Yet not what I will, but what you will. Not what I will. These words are not the wail of a loser, they are the ultimate liberation. This is an impossibly sharp surgical scalpel, severing the toxic tumors bound to your soul in a single slice. The moment you abandon the desperate obsession that everything must go my way, the bitter cup instantly loses all its poison. Now deep in your subconscious, join him in making this most profound act of surrender. Look at the cup in front of you, overflowing with obsession, anxiety, and bitterness. Your hands were locked onto it in a death grip. Your arms were violently shaking from the exertion. Your cervical spine was locked as hard as a stone. Now, take a deep breath of the freezing air. And on a tremendously long exhalation, I command your hands let go. Stop fighting. Stop playing tug-of-war with your life. You cannot win, and you do not need to win. Thud. The heavy cup of agony slips from your powerless hands, overturning onto the black soil. The bitter liquid spills out, instantly absorbed by the parched earth, vanishing without a trace. The exact second the cup leaves your hands, the exact second the obsession is dropped. Feel your neck. That is the place where the hardest, most painful knots of muscle have gathered from years of clenching your jaw and demanding perfection. Now, imagine this pale, freezing moonlight acting as the ultimate physical anesthetic, injected directly into your cervical spine. Under the moonlight, those tightly wound muscle fibers begin to snap. Plop, plop, plop. They surrender the weight of their resistance. Your head loses all its scaffolding, dropping heavily, powerlessly downward. Your chin rests dead against your collarbone. The sedative power of the moonlight flows down your spine, pouring into your shoulders. You used to try to carry the rotation of the entire world on these shoulders, demanding that everything follow your master plan. Now let the shoulder muscles melt like hot wax, sliding down the curve of your bones, collapsing entirely. Your upper arms, your forearms, lose all skeletal integrity, flopping softly onto the freezing dirt. The backs of your hands rest against the ground, absorbing that deep, heavy, anchoring acceptance of the earth. Not what I will. Let this phrase echo incredibly slowly through your body with every breath. Inhale. Breathe the freezing, ethereal moonlight into your chest. Exhale. Not what I will. With every single exhalation, you are undergoing a microscopic death. It is the death of that proud ego that desperately tries to control everything. But please believe me, this death is not painful. On the contrary, it brings an indescribable, ultimate sensation of weightlessness. You no longer need to be responsible for tomorrow. You no longer need to pay the tab for the results. If life brings a storm, let the storm come. If tomorrow holds unknown variables, let them happen. You lie completely perfectly flat inside this sacred will. You have become a handful of dirt in the Garden of Gethsemane, allowing the moonlight of grace to stroke your skin. I will count from 5 down to 1. With every number, the absolute last shred of willpower left in your body will be extracted. You will sink endlessly into the abyss of absolute submission. 5. Your spine completely curves, your entire body sprawls limply on the ground like a puddle of formless liquid. 4. Your cerebral cortex halts all its calculations. No plans, no expectations, no future. 3. You merge into the dappled moonlight and the shadows of the trees. You are no longer an isolated, struggling individual. You are part of this tranquil universe too. All the obsessions, all the bitterness, evaporate into a wisp of smoke under the cold light, vanishing entirely. 1. Absolute giving up. Absolute surrender. Absolute rest. Inside this silent olive grove, in the dead of night where all struggling has ceased, you experience the most profound freedom of all, the freedom of allowing everything to happen, the freedom of dropping all resistance. The bitter cup is gone. The obsession is gone. There is only the eternal moonlight, and the night dew wrapping you in tenderness. Sleep. Inside this deepest surrender, along with your very will, fall into a heavy sleep. You do not need to dream. You do not need to think. This unconscious slumber feels like floating at the bottom of a freezing, fathomless ocean. After an unknown expanse of time, the biting moonlight and the bitter scent of olive leaves begin to retreat incredibly slowly. The air around you turns humid, the temperature quietly rising in the dark. At the very edge of your subconscious, the endless black curtain of night begins to bleed away its heaviest density, its edges tinged with an incredibly sharp, cold, gray-blue dawn light. You catch the faint scent of water vapor on the breeze. It is the breath of a vast lake. And mingling within that vapor is an incredibly warm, deeply human fragrance. The roasted, comforting scent of burning charcoal. You feel the dirt beneath your feet morph into soft sand. Out in the distant, gray-blue mist, a warm, tangerine halo of light is quietly burning. The freezing, hard earth beneath you has, at some point, transformed into an incredibly fine, soft, cool sandy beach, drifting on the currents of your subconscious. You have traveled from that suffocating night of agonizing struggle into this water state blanketed by gray-blue mist. This is the morning at the Sea of Tiberias. To be exact, it is the coldest, most hollow, yet most silent hour just before the dawn breaks. In your mind's eye, the saturation of the entire world has been dialed down to 0. There is no blinding sunlight, only an overwhelming, cold-toned, gray-blue water mist. The surface of the sea is as flat and dead as a massive sheet of unpolished lid. Now pull your awareness to your hands and to your utterly exhausted arms. In your subconscious, your hands are violently dragging an incredibly heavy, freezing, waterlogged fishing net. The coarse rope bites into your palms, the muscles in your forearms are convulsing and aching uncontrollably from tossing and hauling it all night long. Look at the net. It is entirely empty. It holds nothing but a few worthless strands of seaweed and freezing lake water. This is the truest reflection of your waking life. You are absolutely terrified of the feeling of coming up empty. In your belief system, the entire value of your existence is perfectly equated to the catch in your net. You believe that only when you deliver flawless results, only when you maintain a bulletproof persona, only when you hoard enough wealth, do you deserve a place in this world. Only then do you deserve love and rest. Upon the Sea of Tiberias of your life, you toil frantically night after night. You throw every ounce of your energy into the dark. Your eyes are bloodshot. Your heart is hollowed out. But sometimes, just like today, no matter how desperately you try, the net comes up completely empty. That ultimate sense of hollowness, that despairing scream of all my effort was for nothing, I am an utter failure, washes over your chest like the freezing waters of dawn. freezing every drop of your vitality. You dare not stop, let alone close your eyes, because you are convinced that a fisherman who caught nothing does not deserve to sleep. But please, look through this heavy, gray-blue fog toward the shore, framed against the high contrast, cold-toned background. Right at the edge of the sand, there is a tiny, impossibly warm, unwavering tangerine halo of light quietly burning. It is a charcoal fire. In this freezing, empty world, it is the only beacon of warmth. You hear the incredibly faint crackle, pop of the charcoal splitting under the heat. Accompanying that sound, a fragrance pierces straight through the cold, hard vapor of the lake and drills directly into your nose, a mingling of pine smoke, the rich, savory scent of roasting fish, and the deeply comforting, carbohydrate-heavy aroma of warm bread baking. Standing beside that warm charcoal fire is a man. It is the Creator, who has already crossed through death, who has conquered all scarcity. He is not holding a clipboard. He is not carrying an evaluation sheet. He does not ask you, why didn't you catch anything last night? He does not condemn you for your empty net. He simply stands by the fire he built with his own hands, looking at your shivering, defeated soul, and in a voice that is incredibly calm, beautifully ordinary, yet vast enough to envelop the universe, he says, "Come and have breakfast." Did you hear that? No performance reviews, no conditions, no I will only give to you if you achieve something. There is only unconditional feeding. Even if you labored all night and caught absolutely nothing, even if your hands are completely empty right now, even if you feel like a worthless failure, on the shores of divine grace there will always be a charcoal fire lit just for you, and a meal already prepared. You are accepted not because of your capabilities. You are accepted simply because you are hungry, because you are cold, because you are a fiercely beloved creation. Now, look at that heavy, freezing, empty net in your hands. I command you, let it go completely. You do not need to feel ashamed anymore. You do not need to try to prove anything. Splash. The heavy, sodden net drops from your hands, hitting the sand with a wet thud. The exact second the net hits the ground. Feel your hands. That deep rigidity caused by a lifetime of gripping too tight begins to thaw like spring ice. Your 10 fingers open incredibly slowly, palms facing upward, reaching toward the tangerine warmth of the fire. Surrender all your obsession with results. Allow yourself in this very moment to be nothing more than an empty-handed, pure receiver. Drag your utterly exhausted legs, incredibly slowly, toward the fire. The sand beneath your feet lets out a soft shush. The sound is profoundly decompressing, as if the earth itself is gently vacuuming all the soreness and heaviness out of your paws. Walk to the fire and slowly sit down. In this retro lighting where the cold mist meets the warm flame, let the tangerine halo of the charcoal fire completely and utterly bathe your face. Close your eyes. Feel that pure physical heat. It washes over you, incredibly tenderly roasting your freezing cheeks. The skin on your face was tight pale. Now, the heat penetrates your pores, and every single fiber of muscle in your face completely unravels in this non-gentle warmth. Your eyelids grow incredibly heavy, flushed with heat. Breathing in the warm wind, carrying the scent of food. I want you to focus all your attention entirely on your stomach, on your solar plexus. Through years of chronic anxiety and terror, your stomach has tied itself into a freezing, hard knot that is the survival pressure you accumulated battling the world. Now imagine the heat of the fire transforming into a thick, golden red current riding your breath, drawn directly into your belly. Inhale. The golden red warmth enters the abdomen. Exhale. That freezing dead knot in your stomach slowly, strand by strand, entangle in this massive heat. Feel your internal organs, they have been severely deprived of blood flow under chronic high stress. Now with this unconditional feeding and acceptance, warm blood rushes back into your stomach, your liver, your intestines. Your abdomen becomes incredibly soft, incredibly warm, rising and falling smoothly with your slow breath. Gurgle. You can even hear the faint, rumbling sound of your stomach relaxing in your subconscious. This is your body telling you, the alarm is deactivated, it is now a safe time to digest, an hour for absolute replenishment. This warm current of unconditional acceptance spreads outward from your stomach. It flows upward, washing over your chest. That heart of yours, drowning in the frustration of coming up empty, is now submerged in this warm, amniotic fluid. It no longer needs to beat frantically to prove its worth. Thump, thump. With every beat, it absorbs the nutrients of grace. It flows downward, passing through your pelvis into your thighs, your calves all the way to your toes. Your legs sprawl completely, heavily across the soft sand. The coolness of the sand and the heat of the fire weave across your skin, creating an ultimate, overwhelmingly drowsy hypnotic sensation. You do not need to speak. He does not need you to explain. On this gray-blue morning, on the shores of Tiberias, the only communication needed is the quiet crackle of the fire in this soundless feeding. You are full. Your soul is no longer starving from emptiness and scarcity. That heavy, satisfying weight known as wholeness presses deeply into every limb and bone. I am going to count backward from 7 down to 1. With every pop of the charcoal, you will sink one layer deeper into the most profound, most satisfied rest. 7. The firelight dances back and forth behind your closed eyelids. Your mind is nothing but a warm sea of tangerine. 6. Your breath has synced perfectly with the rhythm of the waves lapping the shore. Inhale, the wave rolls, and exhale, the wave recedes. 5. Heavy. Your body feels as though it has turned into a piece of driftwood on the beach, baking by the fire, radiating the scent of total peace. 4. All your I should S and I must S have been burned to ash by this flame, blowing away in the wind. 3. You are completely paralyzed in softness. From your skull to your heels, not a single muscle is engaged. 2. Your consciousness grows as thin and ethereal as the morning mist upon the water. 1. You sink entirely into this unconditional love and acceptance, an absolute plummet, absolute satiation, here by the burning fire on the shore. You hand that broken, exhausted ego, the one devastated by an empty net, completely and unreservedly over to the Creator. Sleep, carrying the heavy, warm weight in your belly, carrying the grounded feeling of a soul completely filled. Sink into a deep, heavy slumber, enveloped in a sacred peace devoid of KPIs, devoid of performance reviews. The white noise of the waves and the heat of the charcoal fire grow impossibly distant in your deep sleep. Your consciousness feels as if it has been frozen inside a warm block of amber. Yet right in the center of this profound stasis, an incredibly sharp, intensely pungent, overwhelming fragrance suddenly violently slices through the scent of the sea breeze. Invading your subconscious, it is a wildly noble scent, a mingling of earth, rich resin, and a suffocating intense floral note. It is the scent of pure spikenard, and immediately in the absolute dead silence, you hear the sharp, crystalline sound of jade shattering. CRACK. It feels as though a hard, marble shell wrapping your very soul has been violently smashed to pieces in this exact second. CRACK. This sharp, jarring explosion of sound acts like a bolt of lightning cutting through the thick, muffled white noise of the charcoal fire at Tiberias, instantly cleaving through the heavy fog of your subconscious. The sea breeze, the sand, the fire, they all peel away like a fading mural. Inside your inner vision, the light and shadow violently restructure themselves. You find yourself standing in an impossibly luxurious, yet heavily shadowed ancient banquet hall. The lighting here remains extremely low-key. Only a few massive cast iron oil lamps burn high on the walls, casting thick, caramel-toned, amber halos. The vast majority of the hall is drowned in a velvet, suffocating, dark black aesthetic. And right at the deepest seam where the light meets the shadow, you see the source of the sound. It is a completely shattered alabaster jar, radiating an icy white glow. Following that sharp snap, a violently intense, almost stinging noble fragrance. A blend of ancient, deep earth, thick resin, and a floral note so concentrated it borders on despair, floods the room like a bursting dam, instantly drowning your senses. Now focus all your attention, incredibly slowly, on the exact center of your chest. Focus on your heart, and the space at the very back of your throat. Feel it. In your waking hours, perhaps for the past several decades, hasn't there been an alabaster jar buried right inside your chest? It is carved from the hardest, coldest, most flawless marble. Its surface is polished to an extreme smoothness, reflecting the cold, hard light of logic, strength, and perfection. This jar is the vessel you use to seal away your emotions. You are entirely too accustomed to suppressing yourself. In a world that demands absolute rationality and efficiency, you were taught that you cannot be weak. You cannot break down. You cannot let anyone see your mess. And so you took all your grievances, all your terrors, all your exhaustion, all your unseen tears, and those anxieties that threatened to tear you apart in the dead of night, and you violently, desperately crushed them down into this jar. You used an iron-last willpower to hammer the tightest possible cork into the neck. You presented the world with an icy perfect, indestructible marble shell. You thought you had your emotions under control. But please, look deep into your chest through this shadowed light. Emotions have physical mass. When thick, sorrowful, anxious emotions are compressed into a sealed container for years on end, they ferment. They expand. They mutate into a highly volatile fluid with a terrifying physical pressure. Just notice your breathing right now. Why is your breath always so shallow? Why does it always feel like a boulder is crushing your chest? Why is there always a lump in the back of your throat, as if blocked by a wad of cotton? Because the alabaster jar in your chest is filled to the absolute breaking point. The internal pressure is at the critical threshold of explosion. To keep this jar from shattering, your diaphragm has to stay violently locked. Your intercostal muscles must remain constantly contracted. Your jaw must stay clamped shut. You are burning through more than half of your life energy, merely to hold back the tears, merely to look perfectly normal. This forced, brittle strength is the ultimate shackle murdering your sleep. How can a soul trapped inside a pressure cooker, ready to detonate at any second, possibly enter a state of rest? Now, inside this shadowed banquet hall, inside this sacred metaphor, the woman carrying the precious spikenard comes up behind the Creator. She does not carefully pry the cork open. She does not try to control the speed of the pour. She commits an utterly desperate, absolutely mad, yet profoundly magnificent act. She shatters the jar. Crack. Before this sacred grace, you no longer need to maintain your perfection. You no longer need to be the emotionally stable adult. The Creator is entirely capable of receiving all of your brokenness. Now, in the deepest trenches of your subconscious, allow that action to happen. Look at the cold, hard, suffocating marble jar in the center of your chest. Instruct your subconscious, shatter it. Take a deep breath. Pull the oxygen into the deepest floor of your chest, letting it brush against that hard shell, and on an incredibly long, total exhalation, hear your own crack echo through your mind. The jar shatters. In the exact moment the hard shell webs with cracks and violently collapses, a staggering physical sensation of release, unlike anything you have ever felt in your life, explodes from the center of your chest. It is the zero-gravity sensation of a massive, crushing pressure instantly vanishing. Feel your sternum. That invisible boulder that has crushed you for countless days and nights pulverizes into dust. Your ribs, like a folding fan forced shut for years, suddenly snap open, expanding outward, completely and entirely released. That thick liquid you suppressed for years. Your grievances, your tears, your forced strength has finally found the breach. It transforms into an impossibly rich, even physically warm, spikenard oil pouring out from your shattered heart. Do not block it. Do not try to wipe it away. Allow the pouring to happen. Feel this warm, liquid emotion flow down your chest. It washes over your diaphragm. That muscle, previously as stiff as an iron plate, shudders violently the second the warm oil hits it, and then instantly melts like hot butter, going entirely slack. Your abdomen is finally allowed to rise deeply, without resistance, welcoming a long-forgotten, bone-deep breath. Inhale. That is the air of freedom. Exhale. That is the voiding of pressure. The oil continues to flow. It runs down your shoulders, spilling into your arms. It is a remarkably heavy, viscous fluid. As it coats your upper and lower arms, it washes away every ounce of soreness and tension locked in the muscles. Your arms become like silk soaked in warm oil, hanging heavy and lifeless at your sides. Your fingertips can even feel a faint, tingling sensation as the liquid drips away. Drip, drip. With every falling drop of oil, a piece of anxiety leaves your body. Now shift your focus to your throat and your face. With the shattering of the jar, the hard lump choking your throat melts away. Your airway becomes incredibly open, incredibly vast. Give your eyes permission to burn. In this absolutely private, absolutely safe, profound darkness, no one is here to judge you. If you need to weep, let the tears fall. Those tears, they are the spikenard of your soul. They are not a symbol of weakness, they are the physical manifestation of your deep healing. Feel the tears or the warm sensation of release, looming beneath your eyelids. The ring of microscopic muscles around your eyes, the ones that cramped from desperately holding back ears, are now completely, nakedly relaxed. The space between your brows smooths outward. Your jaw loses all its bite force, yielding to gravity, dropping heavily, slightly downward. The entire room, your entire subconscious space, is flooded with this overwhelmingly rich, intoxicating, light-rousy fragrance. This scent is the ultimate sedative. It bypasses your nasal cavity and flows directly into your brain's limbic system. It is physically anesthetizing the neurons responsible for fear and hypervigilance. Yes, listen. That is the agonizingly slow sound of the oil evaporating as it hits the air. As the liquid drains and evaporates, you begin to experience a bizarre, miraculous physical transformation. You are becoming empty. This is a physical sensation of ethereal emptiness. In the past, your body was stuffed with entirely too many things. You were like a burlap sack filled with rocks, too heavy to ever float. Now, the jar is broken. The rocks are dumped out. The emotions are emptied. Feel your torso. It is no longer a heavy, solid mass that has transformed into a hollow, crystal-clear bamboo reed. Nothing is blocking you anymore. The breath you pull in travels straight from your nose, effortlessly passing through your chest cavity, your abdomen, all the way down to the soles of your feet. You become incredibly light, so light you feel as though you have lost your gravity. If your bed were to vanish right now, you would not fall, you would simply float like a feather suspended in this rich fragrance. I will begin a deep emptying countdown for you. With every number, the very last drop of heavy emotion will be flushed completely out of your body. You will sink endlessly toward an absolute, transparent, weightless void. 9. The oil is still flowing slowly. Your thighs, your calves are soaked in the warm liquid. The tension hidden deep in the crevices of your bones is washed completely clean. 8. Your feet, right down to the tips of your toes, enter a deeply numb, tingling, weightless relaxation. 7. The very last shadowed corner of your chest is completely evacuated. No grievances, no fear. Only a vast, unguarded, open expanse. 6. The boundaries of your skin begin to dissolve. You are merging into the thick scent of the spikenard. 5. You cannot even feel your physical body anymore. You are nothing but a pure, thoroughly cleansed consciousness. 4. The very last spark of thought in your brain hisses out in this intensely heavy, oxygen-deprived sedation. 3. Nothing can tether you anymore. You have no secrets left to guard, no strength left to fake too. You are entirely transparent. You are absolutely free. 1. Empty of everything. Ultimate weightlessness, ultimate rest. Here, inside the shadowed hall filled with fragrance, resting beside the shattered ruins of the marble jar, you have completed the most thorough unburdening. You have poured out the truest, most fragile, most broken version of yourself entirely at the feet of grace. And because you are finally empty, you can finally receive ultimate peace. Sleep. Inside this weightless, maskless, formless state of the void. Sleep deeply, heavily. The fragrance within your extreme deep sleep undergoes an incredibly slow evaporation and dispersal. That intense, human warmth associated with emotions and banquets begins to gradually recede. Your consciousness, suspended in absolute weightlessness, continues to drift downward toward the abyss of the subconscious. After an unknown amount of time, the air around you turns remarkably freezing, remarkably pure. It is the sharp, biting air of subterranean bedrock, air that has never been breathed by any living creature. You smell a deeply damp, profound scent of soil riding on the breeze. It is the earth of an ancient garden. Ahead of you, inside an impossibly massive, freezing natural cavern swallowed by rock. All labor, all emotion, all sound has reached its final, ultimate rest. Deep within this absolutely silent garden, standing before a newly hewn, shadowed tomb, you hear a deafening, massive, subterranean roar. The sound of a stone rolling, signaling that everything is finished. RUMBLE, accompanied by a massive, booming roar that shakes the deep tectonic plates. A circular boulder weighing several tons rolls down its slanted stone groove. It moves incredibly slowly, yet with an absolute, irreversible, crushing power. In your inner vision, the very last sliver of gray-blue light from the outside world is mercilessly squeezed and swallowed by the rolling stone. That narrow crack of light grows thinner, darker. Boom. A massive, heavy explosion of sound, signaling ultimate physical isolation. The boulder slams perfectly into the end of the groove, sealing the entrance flawlessly. The light is instantly severed. All sounds, the wind rustling the leaves outside, the footsteps of men, the deafening roar of the air are, in this exact split second, perfectly and completely blocked out by several meters of impenetrable rock. You have been sealed inside and absolutely enclosed, absolutely soundproof, absolutely safe vacuum. This is a brand new tomb in a garden outside Jerusalem in the 1st century. It is carved directly out of a single, massive piece of pure, unyielding bedrock. Take a deep breath. Smell the specific scent of the inner rock. There is no sun-baked heat here, no complex odors of human existence. The air holds only the freezing, damp scent of deep earth soil, laced with the incredibly rich, bitter, woody aroma of Marandellos, resins carrying ultimate preserving and sedating properties. This is the scent of the final rest. In the waking world, the thing you fear the most is the end. You constantly feel that your work is not done. You constantly feel that you are not good enough, so you desperately try to extend the timeline. Your brain is like a machine whose plug can never be pulled, roaring away through countless midnights, trying to patch the holes of your imperfect regrets. You do not dare to close your eyes, because you believe that the second you stop trying, everything will end in a rushed, miserable failure. You cannot accept the finality of powerlessness. But, please, listen to the ultimate declaration, echoing in this shadowed to MBA declaration crossing time and space, from the very depths of the cosmos. It is finished. This is not a sigh of defeat. This is the most magnificent victory cry the Creator has ever shouted to the universe, after enduring every ounce of labor, tearing and crushing. The heaviest work is already over. The steepest price has already been paid in full. The perfect work of redemption has been flawlessly completed. It does not require a single drop of your extra effort. It does not require you to sweat one more drop to fix anything. Before this declaration, all your daytime anxieties, your obsessive compulsions, your delusions of turning the tide, they are exposed as utterly insignificant. Everything, absolutely everything is finished. With this declaration, time steps into the sacred 7th day. In the Genesis myth, God rested on the 7th day, not because he, the Almighty, felt muscle fatigue, but because he looked at all he had made and saw that it was very good. He ceased all creation and entered perfect stillness. Now, grace invites you to enter this 7th day rest, where all labor has ended. Inside this tomb sealed by the massive stone, on this sacred Sabbath, no one is allowed to work. Not a single thought is permitted to spin. The only action you are permitted to take is to completely utterly lie down, deep in the absolute abyss of your subconscious. Lower your body, incredibly slowly, onto the freezing, smooth stone slab in the center of the tomb. Feel your condition right now. Your body is tightly wrapped layer by layer, in pristine dry, fine linen, radiating the bitter scent of myrrh. This linen acts as an incredibly warm, physically compressing cocoon. It strips your limbs of all mobility. Your arms are bound to your sides, your legs are tied firmly together. You cannot struggle. You cannot sit up. You cannot even roll over. This is the ultimate state of being bound and surrendered. You have entirely lost control over your physical flesh. But miraculously, this loss of control does not bring panic. It brings an unprecedented, terror-inducing sense of security. You finally have a perfect excuse to stop all your struggling. I have done my best. Now, there is absolutely nothing more I can do. Let this sentence be the very last line of text flashing across your cerebral cortex. As the letters slowly dim into blackness, your body begins to fuse heavily, deeply, into the freezing stone slab beneath you. Feel the back of your head. Your skull, which used to burn hot from overthinking, is now pressed flat against the bone-chilling rock. The freezing temperature of the stone acts as the most powerful physical coolant, instantly chilling the final, microscopic firing of the neurons in your brain. Sizzle. Every spark of thought, the second it touches the cold, goes completely dark. The inside of your head becomes a dead volcano buried beneath heavy snow, never to erupt with the magma of anxiety again. Moving down your cervical spine, feel the slab supporting your back. It has zero elasticity. It is the most ancient, indestructible material in nature. When you hand all your weight over to it, you realize that the world you thought would collapse is actually held firmly by this rock. Your shoulder blades sink deeply into the surface. The erector spinae muscles running alongside your spine, the muscles that have ached for decades trying to keep you standing tall, let out their final long sigh. They melt like thawing spring water, sliding off the edges of the slab and vanishing. You have lost all skeletal tension. You have become a mere shell, maintaining only the absolute baseline of vital signs. The temperature inside the tomb is eternally constant. There is no freezing winter or scorching summer here, no shift between day and night. It is the absolute, safe, constant temperature of the womb. Inside this constant embrace, your breathing undergoes a profound change. Inhale. Incredibly slow, incredibly faint. So faint that even you can barely hear the air passing through your nose. Exhale. The breath turns into an almost non-existent wisp of white fog in the freezing air, dissolving into the endless dark. Your heartbeat is forcefully assisting to the frequency of the ancient rock. In reality, your heart always beats like a frantic war drum, ordering you to charge. But now, in the absolute stasis of the seventh day, thump, thump. The gap between beats is stretched to the absolute maximum. With every single beat, you feel yourself plummeting another 1,000 meters down into the abyss. Your heart is no longer pumping blood to survive, it is merely following the oldest, most silent metronome of the universe, performing the laziest, tiniest contractions. Now, I will sever the very last cable connecting you to the waking world. Imagine you are a tiny submarine resting at the absolute bottom of a deep-sea trench, and my countdown is the blade cutting the fiber optic cable that maintains your last shred of waking consciousness. From 10 down to 1, you will bid a final farewell to the physical world, sinking into the dreamless, impossibly deep abyss of cellular repair. 10. The compression of the linen wrappings grows heavier. You feel as though you are turning into a fossil inside this tomb. 9. Time in the outside world completely freezes behind this massive stone. There is no tomorrow, no future, only the eternal now. 8. Your internal organs enter a state of extreme hibernation. Energy consumption drops to absolute zero. 7. The extremities of your body, fingertips, toes, have completely lost sensation. You are melting into the boundless dark. 6. The scent of Myrndelos seals away your final olfactory memory. 5. You have even forgotten your own name. You have forgotten your identity, forgotten every single role you play in this world. 4. The final cable pulls tight. 3. Your consciousness is reduced to a microscopic, cold white dot of light. 2. That dot of light, suspended in endless ink, incredibly slowly, shrinks again. 1. The cable is cut. The light goes out. HUMNNN. An impossibly grand, profound cosmic bassline hum gently ripples through the deepest floor of your subconscious. You have plummeted into the deep ocean. This is a sea of life without ripples, without undercurrents, without even a single ray of light. You do not need to breathe. You do not need to swim. You do not need a direction. The sacred grace that spoke the world into being has transformed into the thickest, softest buoyant force in this deep sea, perfectly wrapping and holding you from every side. All labor is finished. The heavy stone has rolled into place, severing all chaos. Within the deepest rest of this seventh day, cocooned in the dark, scented with Myrndelos, allow your soul to enter its most complete death and repair. Nothing can ever disturb you here. Plummet, sleep, inside the endless, undeniable, sacred stillness. Enter the longest, deepest, most unguarded sleep of your life.